The Knights Templar are legends wrapped in mystery. Warriors of the Crusades? Yes, but what if their true power lay in something far deeper? What if they weren't just soldiers, but custodians of a forbidden knowledge, a secret knowledge of time itself? What if their mastery of ancient calendars and cycles gave them the ability to predict the rise and fall of empires, to foresee celestial shifts, and to shape the course of history? And when their order was betrayed, was it their understanding of time, too dangerous to remain in the hands of a few, that made them a threat to the powers of the Church? What if the Templars' greatest secret still lives on today? The Templars, often remembered for their military prowess and their role in the Crusades, were shrouded in mystery long before they were condemned and disbanded by the Pope in 1312. Yet, buried beneath the myths of treasure hunts and secret codes, there lies an even more intriguing possibility. Could the Knights Templar have been more than just warriors, architects, and financiers? Could they have been custodians of knowledge that transcended time itself? A knowledge not about war or wealth, but about something far deeper, about time itself. Imagine, for a moment, that the very foundations of human history were built on not just events but cycles, vast, eternal cycles that govern everything from the rise of empires to the turning of the seasons. What if the Templars were the key to unlocking this ancient understanding of time? We have long heard whispers of their secret knowledge, of hidden treasures and long-lost wisdom. But what if the most profound of these secrets was their extraordinary grasp of calendars, cycles, and the hidden forces that drive the universe? It's a tantalizing thought, that the Templars, at the height of their power, may have understood time in a way that no one else did. A knowledge so powerful that, had it been revealed, it could have changed the course of history. What was it about their connection to time that was so dangerous? What knowledge did they uncover that others sought to erase? Could this knowledge still exist today, hidden in the corners of forgotten archives, passed down through secret societies, or encoded in symbols we have yet to fully decipher? To answer these questions, we must first turn our attention to a time long before the Templars became the warriors of legend. We must look to their origins, the first glimpses of their mysterious connection to time, a connection that would later define their role in history. The story begins in the midst of the Crusades, the holy wars between Christians and Muslims that defined the medieval period. In the early 12th century, as Europe was embroiled in religious conflict, a small group of knights, led by Hugues de Payens, established the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, the Order of the Knights Templar. On the surface, the Templars were soldiers dedicated to protecting Christian pilgrims on their journey to the Holy Land. But beneath this veneer of piety lay something far more complex. Their mission, as they soon learned, was not just about defending the faith. It was about uncovering something much older, something that had been hidden for centuries. The Templars' role as protectors of the Holy Land placed them at the crossroads of ancient knowledge, a knowledge passed down by civilizations long gone. It was in the ruins of Jerusalem, in the shadow of the Temple of Solomon, that the Templars first glimpsed the idea of time not as a linear progression but as a series of interconnected cycles. The Temple of Solomon, the site of their early headquarters, was more than just a religious symbol. It was a place steeped in ancient wisdom, where knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and sacred geometry was believed to have been passed down through the ages. The Templars, with their keen intellects, soon realized that the key to understanding the cosmos might lie not in religious dogma, but in the very structure of the universe itself, time, cycles, and the way they connected all things. It is said that the Templars uncovered ancient manuscripts, possibly from the era of the Babylonians or the Egyptians, which detailed advanced systems of timekeeping, many of which predated the calendars we use today. These systems weren't just tools for tracking days or seasons. They were, in many ways, codes that described the movements of celestial bodies, the ebb and flow of cosmic energies, and even the rise and fall of civilizations. The Templars' understanding of these cycles would have been revolutionary, allowing them to anticipate not just astronomical events, but potentially political, social, and even spiritual shifts. Imagine the impact this could have had on the medieval world. If the Templars could predict the movements of the stars with precision, or understand the significance of certain lunar phases, they would have held power beyond the sword. They could anticipate the changing tides of history, recognize the potential for upheaval, and shape the future in ways no one else could. But this knowledge was dangerous, too dangerous to remain in the hands of a small, secretive group. As their power and influence grew, so too did the threat they posed to those who sought to control knowledge, particularly the Church, which held monopoly over the sacred and divine. The Templars' understanding of time wasn't just a tool for their benefit. It threatened to disrupt the established order, challenge the Church's authority, and expose a hidden truth. That time, in all its complexity, was more than a divine mystery. It was a force that could be understood and harnessed. Yet, as the Templars rose to prominence, so did their enemies. The Church, fearful of their growing wealth, power, and influence, began to question their motives. The order that had once been lauded as a symbol of faith and honor was now viewed with suspicion. By the early 14th century, King Philip IV of France, motivated by both greed and fear, began a systematic campaign to destroy the Templars. The night of October 13, 1307, would become infamous in history as the night that the order was betrayed, its leaders arrested, and its secrets seized. But what was it about the Templars' knowledge that was so threatening? Was it their advanced understanding of calendars? Or was it the possibility that they had discovered a method to predict the unfolding of history itself? As the Templars were dismantled, their archives, their manuscripts, and their sacred texts were seized by the Church and lost to history. But the question remains, what if some of this knowledge survived? What if the Templars' understanding of time, once so radical and dangerous, was never truly erased? Could their secrets still be hidden in the archives of secret societies, encoded in symbols or maps that only a select few can understand? This possibility sends a chill down the spine, because if the Templars knew something about time that we still do not fully understand, it would mean that we are still, in some sense, living in the shadow of their legacy. The fragments of their lost calendar could still hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of the past and the future. What if they knew something about the cycles of history, the rise and fall of civilizations, or even the events that might shape the future? In the centuries following their downfall, the Templars' knowledge was not forgotten entirely. It found its way into the hands of other secret societies, perhaps the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, or other groups whose beliefs and practices were deeply intertwined with the ideas of cycles, time, and celestial events. The idea of time as a cyclical, ever-repeating force is central to many esoteric traditions, and the Templars may have been the first to truly understand its implications. They were not just warriors. They were, in a very real sense, timekeepers, protectors of a knowledge so dangerous that it had to be hidden away. And so, as we delve deeper into the mystery of the Templars, we are faced with a tantalizing question. What if everything we thought we knew about history is only a fraction of the truth? What if the Templars, with their enigmatic knowledge of ancient calendars and cycles, were not just warriors of faith but the custodians of a truth so profound that it could change the way we view the very fabric of existence? The journey to uncover this secret has only just begun, and as we peel back the layers of history, we are left wondering, what if the Templars were not only masters of time, but the keepers of its deepest, most powerful secrets? The answers may be hidden in plain sight, waiting for those brave enough to seek them out. The story of the Knights Templar is one that begins not in the shadowy corners of history, but at the crossroads of two great civilizations, Christianity and Islam. The Templars did not rise in a vacuum. Their creation was born out of a fierce religious conflict, one that echoed through the centuries, the Crusades. These wars, initially a call to arms to reclaim Jerusalem from Muslim rule, would go on to define the medieval era, shaping not only the future of Europe but also that of the Middle East. Amidst the chaos of these battles, a small group of knights formed an order that would eventually become legendary. But it was not only their military prowess that made them formidable. It was their ability to understand and manipulate the very forces that governed their world, including time itself. The Crusades, which began in 1095 with Pope Urban II's call for a holy war to liberate Jerusalem, were as much about power as they were about faith. The Christian kingdoms of Europe were locked in a battle for dominance, and the Holy Land represented not just a spiritual prize, but a political one as well. The Middle East, a region teeming with ancient cultures, was a crossroads of civilizations, where East met West, where knowledge and power flowed in equal measure. It was here, in the deserts and cities of the Holy Land, that the Templars first began to forge their identity. The original mission of the Templars was simple: protect Christian pilgrims traveling to the sacred sites in Jerusalem. But what began as a relatively humble task would quickly evolve into something far more complex. The Knights, under the leadership of Hugues de Payens, were granted a small plot of land in Jerusalem, near the ruins of the Temple of Solomon. It was from this site that they took their name, the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, or more commonly, the Templars. The Temple of Solomon, the legendary biblical structure, had long been a symbol of wisdom and divine power, and its ruins held a special place in the hearts of those who believed in the ancient mysteries of the world. For the Templars, however, it would come to represent much more than just a holy relic. It would become the foundation of their understanding of time, cycles, and the mysteries of the universe. While their primary role was military, the Templars quickly expanded into other areas: finance, architecture, and administration. The order became a powerful organization in its own right, with vast wealth and influence stretching across Europe and the Middle East. But what truly set them apart from other military orders was their obsession with knowledge. The Templars were not just warriors. They were intellectuals, scholars, and possibly even timekeepers. It is in this context, amid the clash of faith, power, and knowledge, that the Templars' relationship with time began to take shape. Jerusalem, the city they had sworn to protect, was a melting pot of ancient knowledge. The Templars, living in the heart of this cultural crossroads, would have had access to ideas from civilizations that had long since faded from history. The knowledge of the Babylonians, the Egyptians, and the Greeks, who had understood the movements of the stars and the cycles of the moon, was still present in the ruins of the city. The Templars would have encountered these ideas and likely incorporated them into their own beliefs. What they found in the ruins of Jerusalem, and the ancient manuscripts they uncovered, may have been the missing pieces of a puzzle that had been lost for centuries. It was in the context of this intellectual awakening that the Templars began to explore the concept of time, not as a mere linear progression of days and years, but as a vast, interconnected web of cycles. This was not a new idea. The ancient Egyptians had understood the cyclical nature of time, as had the Babylonians and the Maya. But for the Templars, the idea of time was not just a philosophical curiosity. It was practical. It was tied to their survival, their wealth, and their power. The Templars' understanding of time was tied to the movements of the stars, the phases of the moon, and the cycles of the sun. They were likely aware of the ancient lunar and solar calendars, and it is possible that they even had access to more advanced systems that had been passed down through the ages. These calendars were not just tools for tracking the seasons. They were keys to understanding the natural world, to predicting the future, and to unlocking the mysteries of the universe. The Templars, with their access to knowledge from across the ancient world, may have been the first to truly understand the deep connection between the heavens and the earth. The Templars' role as protectors of the Holy Land placed them in a unique position. They were not just soldiers, they were also diplomats, administrators, and scholars. This dual role gave them access to a vast array of knowledge, both practical and esoteric. As they traveled through the Middle East, they would have encountered cultures that had been studying the stars and the cycles of time for millennia. The ancient Egyptians, with their complex calendar systems, and the Babylonians, who had developed one of the earliest forms of astronomy, were just two of the cultures that had left their mark on the region. The Templars, in their quest for understanding, would have sought out this knowledge, and it is likely that they adopted and refined it. One of the most significant aspects of this knowledge was the understanding of time as a series of repeating cycles. The ancient civilizations understood that time was not just a straight line, but a repeating pattern. The Egyptians, for example, had developed a calendar based on the heliacal rising of Sirius, which marked the beginning of the annual flooding of the Nile. The Babylonians, meanwhile, had developed a system based on the cycles of the moon, using a lunar calendar that was closely tied to their religious rituals. The Templars, with their access to these ancient systems, would have been in a unique position to not only understand these cycles but also to use them for practical purposes. But the Templars were not just concerned with the practical aspects of time. They also believed that the cycles of time were connected to the spiritual world. This belief was rooted in the idea that the cosmos was not just a physical reality, but a spiritual one as well. The Templars likely believed that by understanding the cycles of the heavens, they could gain insight into the divine will. Time, for them, was not just a human construct. It was a reflection of the divine order. The Templars' understanding of time was also tied to the idea of prophecy. The ancient civilizations, including the Mayans, believed that certain cycles of time could predict the future. The Templars, with their vast knowledge of these cycles, may have been able to predict key events in history, such as the rise and fall of empires or the coming of great leaders. This ability to predict the future would have given them a strategic advantage, allowing them to navigate the political and military challenges of the time with a level of foresight that was unmatched by their enemies. But as the Templars grew in power, so did their enemies. The Church, which had once supported the order, began to view them with suspicion. The Templars' vast wealth and influence, coupled with their mysterious knowledge, made them a threat to the established order. In 1307, King Philip IV of France, motivated by both financial greed and fear, orchestrated the arrest of the Templar leadership. The order was dismantled, its members tortured and executed, and its secrets buried in the dust of history. But the question remains, what happened to the Templars' knowledge? Some believe that the secrets of the Templars were not lost, but hidden. The order's archives were seized by the Church, and many of their manuscripts were destroyed or locked away. But the knowledge of time, the secrets of the cycles, may have been passed down in secret. Some argue that the Templars' knowledge was preserved in the hidden libraries of Europe, passed on to secret societies such as the Freemasons, or even encoded in the architecture of the great cathedrals they built. The idea that the Templars' understanding of time was so dangerous that it had to be hidden from the world is a powerful one, and it raises the question, what would happen if we could uncover these secrets today? As we dig deeper into the story of the Templars, we begin to realize that their true power may have been far more than what we have been led to believe. Their military strength was formidable, but it was their understanding of time, their connection to the ancient cycles, that made them a force to be reckoned with. The Templars were not just warriors. They were timekeepers, guardians of knowledge that could change the course of history. And as we unravel their story, we begin to wonder, what if we are still living in the shadow of their lost legacy? What if the Templars' true secret, their understanding of time, still holds the key to understanding the mysteries of our world today? The Templars, a group once known for their military might and secretive nature, were more than just the warriors of legend. While they have been immortalized in history for their role in the Crusades and their mysterious downfall, there exists a far more intriguing aspect to their story, one that revolves around their profound understanding of time. As we begin to examine the possibility that the Templars were not only knights but also keepers of a secret calendar, a hidden system of time that transcended what the world knew at the time, the true depth of their knowledge begins to emerge. The Templars' calendar wasn't just a tool to track days or mark the seasons. It was a key to understanding the natural and divine forces that governed their world. At first glance, the concept of a Templar calendar might seem like a minor part of their history, a curious tidbit that could be easily dismissed as mere speculation. However, the more we delve into the details of their organization and the knowledge they possessed, the clearer it becomes that their relationship with time was far more complex than anyone ever imagined. The Templars, who were not only military tacticians but also scholars, had access to a wealth of ancient knowledge that went beyond mere warfare or theology. They were part of a long line of thinkers who understood that time was not just a linear progression, but a cyclical force, one that governed both the natural world and the human experience. To understand the significance of the Templars' calendar, we must first explore the ancient systems of timekeeping that predate them. Throughout history, various civilizations have developed their own methods of tracking time, many of which were rooted in astronomical phenomena. The Egyptians, for example, were masters of the lunar and solar calendars, which were used not only to track the passage of time but also to align with the spiritual and agricultural rhythms of the year. The Babylonians, too, were keen observers of the skies, creating a sophisticated lunar calendar that was based on the cycles of the moon. These early systems of timekeeping were not simply tools for measuring the passage of days and years. They were deeply connected to the cosmos, a way of aligning human activity with the movements of the heavens. The Templars, as we know, were based in Jerusalem during the height of their power, a city that was not only a center of religious importance but also a crossroads of ancient knowledge. Jerusalem had long been a meeting point for different cultures, each with its own understanding of the cosmos. The Templars, living in the midst of this cultural melting pot, would have had access to this wealth of knowledge. They likely encountered the ancient Egyptian and Babylonian methods of timekeeping and may have even come into contact with the more obscure calendars of other civilizations, such as the Mayans. What the Templars realized, however, was that these various systems of time were not just different ways of tracking days. They were expressions of a deeper truth, a hidden pattern that governed the entire universe. It was in the context of this ancient knowledge that the Templars began to piece together their own system of timekeeping. Their understanding was not based on simple observation of celestial events, but on a deeper, almost mystical comprehension of the natural world. They saw time as a series of repeating cycles, a cosmic rhythm that mirrored the rise and fall of civilizations, the ebb and flow of human consciousness, and the changing seasons of the earth itself. This was not a new concept. The idea of cyclical time was central to many ancient cultures, but the Templars may have been the first to fully integrate this understanding into their worldview, seeing time as an ever-repeating loop rather than a linear progression. In their eyes, history was not a series of isolated events, but a pattern, a circle that would eventually return to its starting point. One of the key elements of the Templars' calendar was their connection to the stars. Like the ancient Egyptians and Babylonians, the Templars would have been keen observers of the heavens, using the positions of the stars and the movements of the planets to guide their actions. The stars, in many ancient cultures, were not simply points of light in the sky. They were thought to be the manifestation of divine forces, guiding humanity through the cycles of life. The Templars, with their deep understanding of astronomy, would have used these celestial bodies not only to mark the passage of time, but also to uncover the hidden forces that shaped human destiny. One of the most striking aspects of the Templar calendar is its connection to the lunar cycle. The moon, which has long been associated with feminine energy, intuition, and mystery, was central to many ancient systems of timekeeping. The Templars, likely aware of the deep spiritual significance of the moon, may have used the lunar calendar not just as a tool to track the months, but as a key to understanding the hidden forces that governed both the natural world and the human soul. The moon's phases, which ebb and flow in a predictable cycle, were thought to reflect the rhythms of life itself, from birth to death and everything in between. By understanding the lunar cycle, the Templars may have believed they could tap into a deeper understanding of the spiritual forces that shape the world. But it wasn't just the moon that the Templars were concerned with. They also had a sophisticated understanding of the solar cycle, the movement of the sun through the sky and its effect on the earth. The solar year, which is divided into 4 seasons, was a central concept in many ancient calendars. The Templars, with their access to the ancient wisdom of the Egyptians and other civilizations, would have understood the importance of these cycles, using them to track the rhythms of nature and align their actions with the changing seasons. In a sense, they saw time not as something to be controlled or conquered, but as something to be understood and harmonized with. The Templars' calendar was likely not a static thing. It would have been a dynamic, evolving system, one that was constantly refined and adjusted as new knowledge came to light. The Order's intellectual curiosity, combined with their access to ancient texts and the wisdom of the East, would have allowed them to develop a timekeeping system that was far ahead of its time. They may have even had access to more advanced mathematical tools, allowing them to track time with a precision that would have been unimaginable to others of their era. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Templars' calendar, however, is its potential connection to prophecy. The ancient civilizations, from the Babylonians to the Mayans, believed that time was cyclical and that the movements of the heavens could be used to predict future events. The Templars, with their deep understanding of time, may have believed that they could use their calendar to unlock the mysteries of the future. By studying the cycles of the stars, the moon, and the sun, they could potentially foresee the rise and fall of great leaders, the outbreak of wars, and the changing tides of history itself. This knowledge would have given them an extraordinary strategic advantage, allowing them to shape the future with a level of foresight that was unmatched by their contemporaries. But what happened to this knowledge? As the Templars grew in power, so too did the threat they posed to the established order. The Church, fearing the order's growing influence and the secrecy that surrounded them, began to view the Templars with suspicion. In 1307, King Philip IV of France, motivated by both financial greed and political necessity, began a campaign to dismantle the Templar order. The knights were arrested, tortured, and executed, and their wealth and knowledge were seized by the crown and the Church. The Templar calendar, along with the rest of their secret knowledge, was buried in the ashes of their fall. But the question remains, was it truly lost? Or was this knowledge preserved in secret, passed down through hidden societies, encoded in symbols that only a select few could understand? There are those who believe that the Templars' knowledge did not die with them. Instead, it was passed on to other secret societies, most notably the Freemasons, who are said to have inherited the Templars' wisdom. The idea that the Templars' calendar, and the knowledge of time it contained, continues to influence the course of history is a tantalizing one. The symbols, rituals, and codes used by these later societies may hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of the Templar calendar, a calendar that was not just a tool for tracking time, but a key to understanding the very forces that govern our world. In the centuries since the Templars were destroyed, their story has taken on a mythic quality. Legends of hidden treasures, secret codes, and forgotten knowledge have become a part of the Templar lore, but the true nature of their legacy, especially their understanding of time, remains an enigma. Were they simply an order of warriors and bankers, or were they timekeepers in the truest sense, guardians of a knowledge that transcended the limitations of their era? As we continue to search for answers, we are left to wonder, what would happen if we could unlock the secrets of the Templar calendar? What if, buried in their forgotten archives, we could find the key to understanding not just history, but the very fabric of time itself? The Templars' understanding of time was not merely a reflection of the ticking hours and days, but something far grander, a vision of time as an eternal cycle, one that mirrored the rising and falling of empires, the shifting of seasons, and the rhythm of the cosmos itself. This idea of time as a cyclical force would have been fundamental to their worldview, an understanding that could have radically altered not only how they approached history but also how they saw their place in it. The concept of cycles, both in nature and in the lives of men, would have been one of their most profound insights, shaping their actions, rituals, and strategies. But what exactly did it mean for the Templars to view time through such a lens, and how did this belief shape their destiny? The cyclical nature of time is something that transcends many ancient civilizations. From the Egyptians to the Mayans, from the Babylonians to the Greeks, countless cultures shared an understanding of time as a series of repeating patterns. These civilizations did not view time as an unbroken line of linear progress. Rather, they saw it as something that ebbed and flowed, repeating itself in vast, cosmic cycles. For the Templars, this concept would have been not just a philosophical curiosity, but a practical framework through which they could anticipate the ebb and flow of history itself. In the ancient world, the study of time was often deeply intertwined with astronomy, the science that seeks to understand the movements of the stars, planets, and celestial bodies. For the Templars, whose order was founded in Jerusalem, a city historically linked to the heavens, the study of the stars would have been a crucial part of their understanding of time. Like the Egyptians, who aligned their pyramids with the stars and used astronomical cycles to predict the flooding of the Nile, or the Babylonians, who charted the movements of the planets in order to predict events on Earth, the Templars would have looked to the heavens for guidance. The stars, in many ancient cultures, were not merely distant balls of gas in the sky. They were seen as the homes of gods, symbols of divine power, and indicators of future events. The Templars, having spent time in the Holy Land, would have encountered these ancient beliefs in the stars, perhaps coming into contact with Jewish, Egyptian, and Persian traditions that saw the heavens as a map of destiny. The Templars, who were driven by their religious fervor and commitment to the divine, may have adopted some of these ancient concepts into their own practices, seeing the stars not just as markers of time but as divine messages. But what was the Templars' ultimate goal in this pursuit of cosmic understanding? Was it merely a means of marking the passage of time, Or was there a deeper, more spiritual purpose at play? One of the more compelling theories is that the Templars saw time as a divine order, one that was not merely to be observed but understood and aligned with. Their calendar, if it existed, would have been far more than a simple system for tracking days or months. It would have been a guide, a way to navigate the ebb and flow of the cosmic tides, to understand when to act and when to wait, when to wage war and when to seek peace. This understanding of time was not confined to the celestial realm alone. It was also reflected in the natural cycles of the earth, the turning of the seasons, the planting and harvest of crops, the life cycles of animals and humans. The Templars, as monastic knights, were deeply connected to the land and its rhythms. Their understanding of time would have encompassed both the stars above and the natural world around them. The cycles of the moon, the sun, and the earth were all interconnected in their minds, forming a holistic view of time that was both spiritual and practical. This connection to the land was especially significant in the context of their military operations. As an order of knights, the Templars were engaged in both spiritual and physical battles. They may have used their knowledge of cycles to predict the best times for battle, when the forces of nature were in alignment with their goals, or when the celestial bodies were signaling that a particular course of action was favored by the divine. In this way, the Templars' understanding of time could have been a strategic advantage. By observing the heavens, they may have been able to predict not just the weather, but also larger historical events, shifts in political power, the rise and fall of empires, and the ebb and flow of human history. The Templars, with their extensive network of spies and emissaries, were uniquely positioned to understand the global patterns that governed the world of their time. Their knowledge of the cyclical nature of history could have given them an extraordinary ability to navigate the complex political landscape of the medieval world. But their understanding of time did not end with the physical world. The Templars also believed that time had a spiritual dimension, one that transcended the earthly realm. This belief in the cyclical nature of time was tied to their understanding of the soul's journey, birth, death, and rebirth. Like many ancient civilizations, the Templars likely viewed the soul as something that passed through cycles of reincarnation, a belief that was common in mystical and esoteric traditions of the time. This view of the soul's journey was not merely an abstract concept. It was a guiding principle of their religious and spiritual practices. By aligning themselves with the divine cycles of time, the Templars believed they could elevate their own souls and ultimately achieve spiritual enlightenment. This idea of spiritual cycles was also reflected in the Templars' military campaigns. The Crusades, which were the defining events of the Templars' early history, were seen as part of a larger, divine plan, one that was unfolding according to the cycles of time. The Templars believed that their military efforts were part of a divine struggle between good and evil, and that their actions were part of a larger, cosmic struggle. The battles they fought were not just earthly conflicts. They were seen as spiritual battles, part of a grand cosmic order that transcended the physical realm. By understanding the cycles of time, the Templars believed they could understand the will of God and align their actions with the divine plan. This belief in spiritual cycles also ties into the Templars' role as guardians of ancient knowledge. They were not simply fighting for political or material gain. They were also protectors of wisdom, of sacred truths that had been passed down from ancient times. The Templars, it is said, may have had access to knowledge that was hidden from the world, knowledge that could reveal the true nature of the universe, the cycles of time, and the divine forces that governed all of existence. In this sense, their understanding of time was not just about marking the passage of the seasons. It was about understanding the very fabric of reality itself. This deeper connection to the cosmic cycles, both earthly and spiritual, allowed the Templars to cultivate an extraordinary sense of timing. They were able to anticipate not only when to act, but when to wait, when to retreat, and when to strike. This ability to understand the flow of time, to move in sync with the natural and cosmic rhythms, was one of their greatest strengths. It is no wonder, then, that the Templars became known as some of the most formidable warriors of their time. Their strategic brilliance was not just a product of their military training, but also of their understanding of the divine cycles that governed all things. However, as the Templars rose in power and influence, so did their enemies. The Church, initially an ally of the order, began to view their growing influence with suspicion. The Templars' knowledge of time, their understanding of the cycles of history, and their spiritual practices may have been seen as a challenge to the established religious order. The Church, which controlled the flow of knowledge and dictated the way people viewed time, especially in the context of salvation and the afterlife, may have seen the Templars' independent interpretation of time as a threat. This fear of the Templars' knowledge, coupled with their immense wealth and power, led to their downfall. The infamous events of Friday, October 13, 1307, marked the beginning of the end for the Templar order. King Philip IV of France, in collusion with Pope Clement V, orchestrated a brutal crackdown on the Templars, leading to the arrest, torture, and execution of many of its members. The wealth of the Templars was seized, their records destroyed, and their knowledge hidden from the world. But despite this effort to erase the Templars from history, the knowledge they possessed, especially their understanding of time, could not be so easily erased. What happened to their calendar, their deep knowledge of cycles, and the secrets they had uncovered? Some believe that the Templars' most valuable knowledge was not lost but rather hidden, preserved in secret societies such as the Freemasons, who may have inherited the Templars' esoteric knowledge. It is also possible that remnants of their calendar, encoded in symbols or hidden in ancient texts, could still be uncovered today, revealing a deeper truth about time and the cycles that govern both nature and human existence. The Templars' legacy may not have ended with their destruction, but rather, it may have lived on in the shadows, waiting to be rediscovered. What is clear, however, is that the Templars' view of time was one of profound significance, a key to understanding the forces that shaped their world and continue to shape ours. By seeing time as a repeating cycle, the Templars were able to align themselves with the natural and divine forces that govern the universe. They understood that the future was not a mystery to be feared, but a pattern to be understood, a cycle to be navigated with wisdom and foresight. Their understanding of the Templars' ability to decode the intricate, cosmic dance of time was not just a reflection of their intellectual prowess. It was the key to their dominance in the medieval world. While most military orders of the time were focused on practical matters, strategy, territory, and warfare, the Templars were also keen observers of the heavens. In their belief system, the study of time went far beyond the mundane measurement of days, months, and years. It was a language and ancient code, written in the stars, the moon, and the very fabric of reality itself. To understand time, in the Templar sense, was to understand the divine order of the universe. But what made the Templars so unique in their relationship with time? The answer lies in their method of interpreting the natural cycles that governed not only the celestial bodies but also human existence. The Templars, by virtue of their placement at the crossroads of Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, found themselves in the center of a confluence of ancient civilizations, each with its own sophisticated system of understanding time. The Egyptians with their solar and lunar calendars, the Babylonians with their astronomy and astrological insights, the Greeks with their mathematical precision, and the Persians with their Zoroastrian concept of time as a duality. These civilizations, along with others, had contributed pieces to the puzzle that the Templars would eventually piece together. The Templars, living in Jerusalem and interacting with the wider world of the Crusades, were exposed to a rich tapestry of ancient knowledge. They were in constant contact with scholars, mystics, and wise men from various cultures, each offering a different perspective on the passage of time. Over time, this knowledge likely seeped into the order, influencing their spiritual practices, their military tactics, and their understanding of the very nature of the universe. In many ways, the Templars' understanding of time was intertwined with their spiritual mission. Unlike other medieval military orders, which primarily viewed their mission through the lens of territorial conquest and religious duty, the Templars were deeply invested in the idea of divine will, of a higher cosmic plan that governed the fate of both men and nations. They saw themselves as soldiers not just of the Church but of a grander divine order, a cosmic struggle between good and evil that unfolded across the ages. This belief in a divine, cyclical order was rooted in ancient religious traditions that emphasized the recurring nature of time. In the ancient world, time was often viewed as a series of repeating patterns. The rise and fall of civilizations, the changing of the seasons, the birth and death of individuals. All were seen as part of an eternal cycle. The Templars, understanding this cyclical nature, may have believed that history itself was not a straight line but a spiral, with each cycle representing a moment of rebirth and renewal, of destruction and creation. In their quest to understand the divine order, the Templars likely used their understanding of these cycles as a tool to navigate the complex political and military landscape of the medieval world. It wasn't just about fighting battles. It was about knowing when the time was right to act and when it was time to wait. The Templars, armed with an understanding of time that transcended the conventional, were able to anticipate changes in the political and religious tides and position themselves as an unparalleled force. They understood, perhaps better than anyone, that time was not just a passive concept but an active force, capable of shaping the future. This understanding of time likely had profound implications for their military strategy. The Templars were not simply warriors. They were timekeepers, guardians of a knowledge that allowed them to anticipate both the natural and the political cycles that influenced their world. The Order's ability to align itself with the natural rhythms of time could have given them a distinct advantage over their enemies. For example, by understanding the cycles of the moon, the Templars could have timed their battles to coincide with favorable celestial conditions. The moon's phases, long associated with various astrological and spiritual meanings, may have been seen as an indicator of when to go to war, when to retreat, or when to strike decisively. But the Templars' understanding of time was not just about military advantage. It was also a deeply spiritual and philosophical endeavor. Their belief in the cyclical nature of time was not just a reflection of their military strategy but also of their religious convictions. In their eyes, time was not merely a tool for measuring the passage of days, but a reflection of the divine will, an expression of God's plan for the universe. By understanding time, they believed they could align themselves more closely with this divine order, acting in harmony with the cosmic rhythms that governed all things. The idea that time was a reflection of divine will was especially important to the Templars because of their deeply religious mission. Their order was founded as a military order of monks, sworn to uphold the Christian faith and protect the holy sites of Jerusalem. But the Templars were not merely soldiers. They were also spiritual seekers, searching for a deeper understanding of the divine. They were driven by a belief that their actions had cosmic significance, that by participating in the Crusades and fighting for the Christian cause, they were part of a greater divine struggle. This belief in a divine cosmic plan may have led the Templars to adopt a more mystical, esoteric view of time than their contemporaries. While other military orders focused on practical concerns, territory, wealth, and military might, the Templars believed that they were participating in a cosmic drama, one that was played out over centuries and millennia. Their understanding of time in this context was not simply about predicting the future but about aligning their actions with a divine timeline. In their quest for deeper knowledge, the Templars may have been drawn to ancient sources of wisdom that held clues about the cyclical nature of time. It is believed that the Templars had access to secret libraries and ancient texts, some of which may have been lost to history. These texts, which may have included works on astrology, astronomy, and sacred geometry, would have provided the Templars with the tools to decode the deeper mysteries of the cosmos. If the Templars did indeed possess such knowledge, it would have given them a unique insight into the patterns of time and the forces that shaped human history. There is also evidence to suggest that the Templars were particularly interested in the concept of prophecy, a central theme in many ancient traditions. Prophecy, in the Templar context, may have been seen as a way to access divine knowledge about the future, to gain a glimpse into the unfolding cycles of history. By studying the cycles of the heavens, the Templars may have believed they could predict the rise and fall of kingdoms, the birth and death of great leaders, and the coming of cataclysmic events. Prophecy, in this sense, was not just about foretelling the future. It was about understanding the divine patterns that underpinned the natural world. The Templars' interest in prophecy and time was not limited to their own era. They may have believed that the knowledge they possessed about time would be passed down through the ages, influencing future generations. This belief in the continuity of time, in the eternal recurrence of cosmic cycles, was central to their worldview. The Templars may have seen themselves not as individuals fighting for a cause, but as participants in a larger, eternal struggle, one that transcended their own lifetimes and would continue long after they were gone. As we explore the Templars' deeper understanding of time, we begin to realize that their legacy was not merely one of wealth, military success, or religious zeal. Their true legacy, it seems, may have been their knowledge of the natural and cosmic cycles that govern our world. This knowledge, passed down through secret societies and esoteric traditions, may still be with us today, hidden in the symbols, rituals, and texts of organizations like the Freemasons. Perhaps the Templars' most enduring contribution was not the wealth they amassed or the battles they fought, but the profound insights they had into the cyclical nature of time, a knowledge that may still hold the key to understanding the mysteries of our universe. In the centuries since their downfall, the Templars have remained an object of fascination and mystery. Their knowledge, their rituals, and their calendar, if it exists, continue to intrigue us, prompting questions about the very nature of time, destiny, and divine will. What if the Templars' understanding of time was the key to unlocking the hidden patterns that govern not only our past but our future as well? As we dig deeper into their history, we find ourselves not just searching for answers about the Templars, but about ourselves, about the very nature of time and the role we play in the eternal cycles of the universe. The Templars' advanced understanding of time did not simply exist in the abstract realm of philosophy or celestial cycles, but was deeply intertwined with their very actions and existence on Earth. This relationship with time may have provided them with extraordinary strategic advantages that were not just about military supremacy but also about mastering the timing of events in ways that were unseen by their contemporaries. To fully appreciate this, it is crucial to understand the context in which these men lived, an era rife with political intrigue, religious conflicts, and shifting powers that required not only tactical genius but also an understanding of the rhythms that governed human affairs. When the Templars were formed during the early 12th century, the Crusades were the focal point of much of European politics. For centuries, the Holy Land was a battleground for control between the Christian and Muslim worlds, and it was against this backdrop that the Templars emerged. But while the Knights Templar are often remembered for their role as military monks, fighting to protect pilgrims on their way to Jerusalem and later becoming a formidable military order, there is far more to their story than simply their involvement in the Crusades. What set them apart from other orders was their unique ability to navigate and manipulate the forces that govern time, through both divine belief and strategic insight. Their military success wasn't simply about combat prowess but about an inherent ability to predict, react to, and capitalize on the flow of events, especially at critical junctures. The very structure of the Templar Order, with its complex hierarchy and a system that spanned Europe and the Middle East, was itself a reflection of their understanding of time and timing. In this regard, their organization acted much like a finely tuned machine, each part moving in synchronicity with others, optimizing resources and efforts at the right moments. This understanding of timing is believed to have been grounded in their awareness of the cosmic forces at play, cycles of the moon, the sun, the stars, and even the socio-political climate. The Templars were keen observers of the political landscape. A fundamental part of their power came from their close relationships with the monarchs and nobility of Europe. They were often able to anticipate shifts in political power and react accordingly, aligning themselves with the rising powers and, in some cases, influencing the very course of history. As they forged these relationships, they also created a network of influence that spanned multiple kingdoms, with their wealth and power providing them a strong foundation. This network allowed them to place themselves in positions of immense influence during crucial moments in history, and, just as importantly, they knew when to leverage that influence for maximum impact. But it wasn't just in the political sphere that their understanding of time proved invaluable. The Templars were also keenly aware of the religious and spiritual cycles that defined the medieval world. In a time when Christian Europe was deeply intertwined with the celestial, spiritual cycles of the Church, the Templars understood the significance of timing in religious observances, pilgrimages, and sacred events. They were not simply monks. They were timekeepers of a grand spiritual order. The timing of their rituals, prayers, and even battles was dictated not only by earthly strategies, but by a deeply ingrained belief in the power of divine timing. One of the most compelling aspects of the Templars' understanding of time is their potential connection to an esoteric tradition of prophecy. Throughout the medieval period, Many groups believed that divine knowledge could be accessed by understanding the cycles of time. Prophecies were seen as a way to predict future events, and the Templars, with their extensive knowledge of the natural world and its rhythms, may have developed a system of prophecy that allowed them to foresee critical moments in history. The Templars may have even believed that they could predict the rise and fall of kings and nations by aligning their actions with these cosmic cycles. There are several historical accounts that suggest the Templars had access to secret knowledge that was not only hidden from the general populace but possibly even from the church. This knowledge could have included ancient texts, manuscripts, or symbols that provided insights into the workings of the universe. In particular, there are those who believe that the Templars had access to ancient prophecies and calendars that helped them predict pivotal moments in history. This knowledge would have been closely guarded, passed down through the generations of Templars in a sacred, secretive tradition that few outside the order would have understood. The Templars' awareness of time also extended to their military strategies. As an order of warrior monks, they were trained to fight at critical moments when their advantages were greatest. This understanding was not simply about the tactical choice of when to engage in battle but also about the larger forces at play in the world around them. The Templars believed that by aligning their actions with cosmic rhythms, they could improve their chances of success. The alignment of their campaigns with celestial events, such as lunar eclipses, solar alignments, or certain astrological configurations, may have been considered a form of divine approval or guidance. Furthermore, the Templars may have drawn upon the knowledge of earlier civilizations, particularly the ancient Egyptians and Babylonians, who were adept at using astronomy and astrology to track time and predict events. These ancient cultures had developed complex systems of calendars based on the movements of celestial bodies, and the Templars, with their widespread access to ancient libraries and manuscripts, may have used these systems as a foundation for their own timekeeping practices. By understanding the cyclical nature of the cosmos, they may have been able to predict key moments in history, such as the rise of powerful monarchs or the onset of major conflicts. In this sense, their military operations could have been seen not only as tactical maneuvers but as part of a larger cosmic plan. The Templars' relationship with time and prophecy was not simply theoretical, it was put into action. As the order grew, so did its understanding of how to leverage time for their advantage. The military campaigns they engaged in were, in many ways, based on their ability to choose the right moment to strike. They knew that the outcome of a battle could often hinge on the timing of their actions. Whether it was the decision to attack a fort at dawn, the choice to withdraw in the face of overwhelming forces, or the ability to wait patiently for the right opportunity, the Templars' success was often based on their strategic use of time. But the concept of time in the Templar worldview was also spiritual in nature. Their mission was to protect the sacred sites of Christianity, and this divine responsibility was not merely a physical endeavor but a spiritual one. The Templars believed they were fulfilling a divine purpose, one that transcended the earthly realm. As such, their connection to time was not just about physical moments, but also about aligning their efforts with a divine will. They believed that time was not merely a linear progression but an unfolding of divine intent. This view of time as something governed by a higher power would have given their actions a sense of purpose and meaning that went beyond the military and political spheres. The Templars' ability to read the rhythms of time also played a critical role in their financial success. The Order's vast wealth was not just the result of military victories or land holdings, but also the result of their financial acumen. The Templars were some of the first to establish a banking system, allowing them to amass vast sums of money and hold significant economic power. Their ability to time financial transactions, knowing when to lend, when to collect, and when to invest, was a key factor in their rise to prominence. Just as they used their understanding of cosmic cycles to time military campaigns, they used this same wisdom in managing their finances, ensuring that their wealth grew exponentially. But as the Templars' power grew, so did the envy and fear they inspired in others. The Catholic Church, which had initially supported their mission, began to view their growing influence as a threat. King Philip IV of France, heavily indebted to the Templars, saw their financial power as a challenge to his own authority. In 1307, under the orders of Philip IV and with the support of Pope Clement V, the Templars were arrested, their leaders tortured, and their wealth seized. The order was dismantled, and the secrets of the Templars were buried, along with their knowledge of time. The treasures of the Templars vanished, and with them, the hidden knowledge that may have been at the heart of their success. Yet, despite their tragic downfall, the legacy of the Templars lives on in the form of legends, mysteries, and conspiracy theories. The idea that the Templars possessed secret knowledge, including a profound understanding of time, has persisted for centuries. Some believe that their knowledge of time was passed down through secret societies such as the Freemasons, whose symbols and rituals are thought to be derived from Templar teachings. Others argue that the secrets of the Templars were encoded in the architecture of the great cathedrals they built, or even hidden in the manuscripts and documents they left behind. In the centuries that followed the dissolution of the Templar order, many of their secrets remained locked away, their understanding of time and prophecy lost to history. But as modern scholars and historians continue to dig deeper into the Templar mystery, it becomes clear that the Templars were not just soldiers, nor were they merely monks. They were keepers of knowledge, guardians of time itself, knowledge that could hold the key to understanding the deepest mysteries of the universe. And perhaps, just as they did in their own time, the Templars' influence continues to shape the course of history, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered once more. As we delve deeper into the enigmatic legacy of the Templars and their connection to the secret forces of time, one might begin to wonder whether their influence extended beyond their military and spiritual endeavors, weaving itself into the very fabric of history itself. Their downfall, which came abruptly and violently in 1307, didn't just signify the end of an order. It marked the dissolution of one of the most powerful, secretive, and enigmatic societies in history. For centuries, the Templars' mysterious nature has captured the imaginations of historians, occultists, and even ordinary people seeking answers to questions that still remain unanswered. What was it that they truly understood? What secrets did they hold? And perhaps most importantly, why were they destroyed so ruthlessly? It is said that knowledge is power, and the Templars' understanding of time, a concept much broader than mere chronology, was indeed a potent form of knowledge. Their awareness of cyclical patterns, cosmic rhythms, and celestial events, merged with their spiritual and military practices, gave them an extraordinary insight into the flow of events around them. But, as the events of October 13, 1307, unfold and the order begins to unravel, the question remains, what happened to the knowledge that was at the heart of their order? Did it vanish with them, or did it find its way into the hands of those who would use it for their own purposes? In the immediate aftermath of the Templars' sudden downfall, the wealth and assets of the order were seized by King Philip IV of France, a ruler who had been deeply indebted to the Templars. The Templars had not only amassed vast fortunes but had created one of the most sophisticated banking systems of the medieval world, enabling them to hold sway over the economic landscape of Europe. The Pope, Clement V, under heavy political pressure from the French monarchy, had already issued a papal bull that effectively dismantled the Templar order. The leaders of the Templars were arrested, tortured, and executed, with many of their secrets locked away in the vaults of the Inquisition or simply lost to time. While the official narrative surrounding the fall of the Templars suggests that their downfall was due to their alleged heresies and the Church's desire to eliminate a potentially dangerous rival, this explanation has always been questioned by those who see something deeper at play. Could there have been a hidden agenda, one that goes beyond mere political and financial motives? Was it possible that the Templars had been destroyed precisely because of their knowledge, their understanding of time and prophecy, their connection to ancient wisdom, and the secrets they had uncovered through their travels to the East? The suspicion lingers that there was more to the Templars than meets the eye, and that their understanding of time was a central part of the threat they posed to the established order. Indeed, there are those who argue that the Templars were not merely monks and warriors, but keepers of an ancient, forgotten knowledge that transcended the mere material world. This knowledge, it is believed, was not confined to religious texts or military strategies, but was rooted in the ancient understanding of cosmic time and the cyclical nature of existence. The Templars' access to the hidden wisdom of the East, combined with their deep immersion in the sacred teachings of Christianity, may have allowed them to unlock an understanding of time that was far beyond the comprehension of their contemporaries. Their understanding of time may have even led them to the conclusion that the events of history were not random or chaotic but rather part of a grand, cyclical pattern that could be predicted and even influenced. To truly comprehend the significance of the Templars' knowledge, one must consider the history of timekeeping and the ancient systems that preceded them. Civilizations throughout history, particularly those in the Middle East, Egypt, and Mesoamerica, developed intricate systems for measuring time. These cultures did not simply observe the passage of days or seasons. They saw time as a cosmic force, deeply linked to the stars, the planets, and the cycles of nature. The Egyptians, for example, aligned their pyramids with the stars, creating a system of time that was tied to the celestial bodies. The Babylonians, similarly, created a lunar calendar that was based on the movements of the moon, understanding that the phases of the moon mirrored the cycles of life and death, growth and decay. These ancient cultures saw time not as a linear progression but as a repeating cycle, one that mirrored the eternal cycles of nature and the divine. It is within this context that the Templars' understanding of time takes on a new significance. If they were indeed inheritors of this ancient knowledge, it is possible that they had access to a timekeeping system that was far more sophisticated than anything known to the medieval world. Some scholars argue that the Templars' travels to the East, particularly during their time in Jerusalem, exposed them to the secret teachings of the ancient civilizations of Egypt, Babylon, and Persia, civilizations that had long understood the deep connection between time and the divine. The Templars, with their strong ties to the Church and their religious mission, may have been uniquely positioned to blend this ancient wisdom with their Christian beliefs, creating a synthesis of knowledge that would have been both sacred and powerful. But how exactly did the Templars utilize this knowledge of time? One possibility is that they used it to predict future events, aligning themselves with the cosmic rhythms in ways that would have given them a strategic advantage over their enemies. Time, in this context, would have been seen not simply as a passive measurement of the passage of days but as an active force that could be harnessed. By understanding the cycles of nature and the movements of the stars, the Templars may have been able to foresee the rise and fall of empires, the timing of battles, and even the personal destinies of kings and rulers. This knowledge would have given them an extraordinary ability to manipulate the course of history, using time as both a tool and a weapon. This idea of using time as a weapon is not as far-fetched as it might seem. Throughout history, certain individuals and groups have understood that the key to power lies in timing, knowing when to strike, when to wait, and when to act. The Templars, with their vast network of spies, agents, and allies across Europe and the Holy Land, would have been in an ideal position to monitor the movements of kings, nobles, and armies. Armed with their knowledge of time and prophecy, they could have timed their interventions with extraordinary precision, ensuring that their actions had the maximum impact. This ability to read the signs of the times and act accordingly would have been a powerful asset, allowing the Templars to maintain their dominance and influence for centuries. But the question remains, what happened to this knowledge after the fall of the Templars? The official history tells us that the Templars were destroyed and their wealth and assets seized. The papal bull of 1312 officially disbanded the order, and their secret teachings were either lost or buried under the weight of political and religious oppression. However, many believe that the Templars' knowledge did not disappear entirely. Instead, it was passed on in secret, hidden within other societies and organizations. One of the most compelling theories is that the Templars' esoteric knowledge, particularly their understanding of time and prophecy, was passed down to the Freemasons, a secret society that emerged in the centuries following the Templars' fall. The Freemasons, with their elaborate rituals, symbols, and secrets, have long been associated with the Templars, and many scholars believe that they inherited much of the Templars' esoteric wisdom. The Masonic order, like the Templars before them, places great emphasis on the importance of time, particularly in the context of spiritual and moral development. The Masonic symbols, many of which are thought to be derived from Templar teachings, often reference cycles of time, the cosmos, and the divine order. This connection between the Templars and the Freemasons has fueled countless theories about the survival of Templar knowledge in secret societies, suggesting that the Templars' understanding of time may still be with us today, hidden beneath layers of symbolism and ritual. Another theory holds that the Templars' knowledge of time was preserved in the form of hidden manuscripts, cryptic texts, or even secret teachings encoded in the architecture of the great cathedrals they built. These cathedrals, many of which were constructed under Templar guidance, contain a wealth of esoteric symbolism and hidden knowledge. Some believe that the design of these cathedrals, specifically their use of sacred geometry, was a reflection of the Templars' understanding of time, geometry, and the divine order. The precise alignment of these cathedrals with celestial events, the use of numerology, and the presence of hidden symbols may all be indicators of the Templars' hidden knowledge, waiting to be uncovered. The Templars' understanding of time, then, was not just a mystical or philosophical curiosity. It was a vital part of their power and influence. Whether they used it to predict future events, manipulate political dynamics, or gain military advantage, their grasp of time was an integral part of their strategy. And as their order was destroyed, so too was the knowledge that could have changed the course of history. But even in their fall, the mystery surrounding their understanding of time endures, continuing to intrigue and inspire those who seek to unlock the hidden secrets of the past. The Templars may have been silenced, but their legacy lives on in the symbols, rituals, and mysteries they left behind, waiting for the next generation to uncover the truths that have been buried for centuries. The concept of the Templars' fall has always been shrouded in mystery, but what is most striking is the strange and perhaps intentional way in which they vanished. The sudden and brutal suppression of the order in the early 14th century seems too dramatic, too orchestrated to be mere coincidence. It raises questions about why the Templars were targeted with such intensity and what knowledge they might have possessed that made their existence so dangerous to the powers of the time. When King Philip IV of France ordered the arrest of the Templar Knights on October 13, 1307, it wasn't just a matter of wanting to confiscate their wealth or dismantle a political threat. There was something more profound, more esoteric at play, something that suggested the Templars held knowledge that transcended the material realm. And it was this very knowledge that ultimately led to their destruction. The arrest of the Templar leaders, followed by widespread torture and executions, was a calculated and chilling maneuver. The severity with which the Templars were treated speaks to the magnitude of the threat that they posed, or rather, the perceived threat they posed. What could a group of warrior monks, dedicated to protecting holy sites and supporting the Christian cause, have known that would cause such fear? Why was it so important to not only destroy their power but also to erase them from history itself? The answer, according to many theories, lies in the Templars' relationship with time and the cosmic knowledge they may have held. For centuries, the Order's deep involvement with ancient esoteric traditions and its position as an intermediary between East and West placed them at the nexus of a profound web of secrets. As the Templars ventured into the East during the Crusades, they were not simply fighting battles, they were immersing themselves in the ancient wisdom of the civilizations they encountered, from the astronomical knowledge of the Babylonians to the sacred geometry of the Egyptians. In these encounters, the Templars began to accumulate knowledge about the nature of time itself, the cyclical patterns that govern the universe and the hidden forces that shape the destinies of men. But this knowledge was not just philosophical. It was deeply practical. The Templars' understanding of time, the cosmos, and prophecy could have allowed them to predict the rise and fall of kingdoms, to foresee military successes and failures, and to time their actions with a precision that others could only dream of. This kind of knowledge would have made them formidable adversaries, not just because of their military might, but because they seemed to have a supernatural understanding of how to align themselves with the flow of time. It wasn't simply about when to strike or when to retreat. It was about knowing the exact moment when the forces of fate, destiny, and divine will would converge in their favor. The Templars' strategic use of this knowledge may have been their greatest strength, but it also became the source of their downfall. The Catholic Church, always wary of competing power structures, began to view the Templars with increasing suspicion as their influence grew. And when King Philip IV of France, who owed the Templars large sums of money, began to see the order as a threat to his own authority, he moved decisively to eliminate them. It was not just a matter of greed or political rivalry. The Templars had something that Philip feared, a knowledge of time that could potentially unravel the very fabric of the political and religious power structures that held Europe together. If the Templars could predict and manipulate the future, if they could align themselves with cosmic cycles in ways that others could not, then they could pose a threat to the stability of the monarchy and the Church itself. But the story of the Templars' destruction doesn't end with their arrest and execution. What happened to the knowledge they held? Was it destroyed with them, buried in the dungeons of the Inquisition, or hidden away to be passed on to others who might use it for their own purposes? While the official narrative tells us that the order was eradicated, there are those who believe that the Templar secrets did not vanish entirely. Instead, these secrets, particularly their understanding of time, may have been passed down through the centuries, encoded in symbols, rituals, and hidden societies. One of the most intriguing theories about the Templars' legacy involves their connection to the Freemasons. Many scholars have pointed out the similarities between the symbols, rituals, and organizational structures of the Freemasons and those of the Templars. The Freemasons, who emerged as a powerful secret society in the centuries following the Templars' downfall, were often accused of inheriting the Templars' esoteric knowledge, including their understanding of time, prophecy, and sacred geometry. The Freemasons' use of symbols like the compass and square, the emphasis on architecture and geometry, and their deep involvement in political affairs have led many to believe that they were the inheritors of Templar knowledge, keeping the secrets of the ancient order alive, hidden in plain sight. Could it be that the Freemasons, aware of the Templars' connection to the hidden forces of time, deliberately preserved this knowledge through their own rituals and symbols? Did they continue to study the cycles of the cosmos and use their understanding of time to gain influence over world events, just as the Templars had done centuries before? The secrecy and mysticism that surround the Freemasons make it difficult to separate fact from speculation, but the similarities between the two organizations are striking enough to warrant further investigation. It's possible that the Templars' teachings about time were not just preserved in secret manuscripts or esoteric traditions, but became integrated into the very fabric of the Freemasonic order, influencing their actions and decisions in ways that remain hidden from the public eye. Another possibility is that the Templars' knowledge of time was encoded in the very architecture they left behind. The great cathedrals of Europe, many of which were constructed with Templar involvement, contain a wealth of symbolic meaning and mathematical precision. These structures are not just feats of engineering. They are cosmic monuments, designed with an understanding of the cycles of the universe. From the alignment of the buildings with celestial events to the use of sacred geometry in their design, these cathedrals may have been intended as repositories of the Templars' secret knowledge. In this way, the Templars' connection to time and the divine order may still be hidden within the walls of these monumental structures, waiting to be uncovered by those who know how to interpret their symbolism. As we consider the possibility that the Templars' knowledge was preserved through secret societies or encoded in sacred architecture, it becomes clear that the order's influence did not vanish after their official destruction. The Templars may have been wiped from the historical record, but their teachings, particularly their understanding of time, seem to have been passed down in ways that remain veiled in mystery. The question, then, is not whether the Templars' knowledge survived, but rather where it has been hidden and who continues to possess it today. Perhaps the most profound aspect of the Templars' destruction lies in the idea that they were wiped out because they possessed a knowledge that was too powerful for their time, knowledge that could change the very course of history if it were ever fully revealed. Their understanding of time, prophecy, and the cosmic cycles may have allowed them to peer into the future in ways that no other group could. And if this knowledge is still hidden, then the implications are staggering. What would it mean for the world if we were to discover the full extent of the Templars' secrets? Could their understanding of time offer us the keys to unlocking mysteries that have eluded us for centuries? Or is their knowledge too dangerous to be fully revealed, locked away to protect the world from the very forces they once sought to control? As the Templars' story continues to unfold in the modern era, we are left to wonder what other secrets may still be hidden, waiting for those with the right understanding of time to uncover them. The Templars may have been destroyed, but their legacy, especially their knowledge of time, persists in the shadows, influencing the course of history in ways that remain unseen by most. Whether through secret societies, hidden manuscripts, or the architecture they left behind, the Templars' understanding of time continues to shape our world. And as we search for answers to the mysteries of the past, it is this knowledge of time that may ultimately reveal the greatest secrets of all. The Templars' connection to time is more than a historical curiosity. It is a link to something far deeper, more enigmatic, and ultimately more transformative. The question of how they used this knowledge is not just an academic pursuit. It opens up a realm of possibilities that challenges our very understanding of history, of the forces that shape our world, and of the role we, as individuals, play within that world. What if the Templars' grasp on time wasn't merely about predicting events or aligning their actions with cosmic rhythms, but about actively shaping the course of history? The very idea of time as a force that can be harnessed seems out of reach for most. Yet the Templars, with their profound understanding, may have been able to tap into that force in ways that are still hidden from us today. The belief that the Templars possessed the keys to unlocking the future is not a new one. For centuries, historians, occultists, and conspiracy theorists alike have posited that the Order's ability to manipulate time, to read the celestial signs, and to understand the ebb and flow of human history gave them an unparalleled power, one that could not only predict events but perhaps even alter the very fabric of reality. The more one delves into the story of the Templars, the more this idea gains traction. There's something compelling about the idea that an order of warrior monks, built to protect the Christian faith, could hold such deep knowledge that transcended both their military and spiritual missions. What made their understanding of time so different from the conventional understanding of the era? What is clear is that the Templars' knowledge went beyond the boundaries of typical medieval thought. While the majority of European society was still operating on a linear perception of time, one that focused on the progression of days, weeks, and years, the Templars seemed to be working with a far more sophisticated concept, one based on cycles and cosmic patterns. This would have been the legacy of the ancient cultures they encountered during their time in the Holy Land: the Egyptians, Babylonians, Persians, and Greeks, all of whom had a deep understanding of time and its connection to the universe. These civilizations did not view time as a mere series of events that happened in succession. Instead, they saw it as a repeating, circular process, a cyclical dance that governed the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of kings, and the unfolding of cosmic events. It's possible that the Templars, in their interactions with these ancient peoples, learned how to interpret the cosmic language of time itself. The Templars were not merely passive recipients of this knowledge. They were active participants in it. They learned how to read the stars, how to track the movements of the planets, and how to interpret the celestial signs that marked key moments in history. Their understanding of time was not limited to the heavens, though. They applied this knowledge to the human realm, looking for patterns in the political and social upheavals of the world. Time, for the Templars, was not just a way to measure the hours of the day. It was a living, breathing entity, an active force that shaped the events of the world. The rise of nations, the fall of empires, the movements of armies, all of these things could be predicted and understood through the lens of time. This concept of time as an active force would have been revolutionary, particularly in the medieval world, where the understanding of time was largely influenced by religious beliefs. Christianity, as practiced in Europe during the Middle Ages, operated within a linear framework of time, one that began with the creation of the world and would eventually culminate in the second coming of Christ. In this model, time was seen as a straight line, moving toward a fixed end. The Templars, however, may have seen time as something far more complex, fluid, and cyclical. Their understanding of cosmic cycles, passed down through the ancient civilizations they encountered, would have led them to view time as a series of repeating patterns, with each cycle building upon the previous one. This cyclical understanding of time would have given the Templars a distinct advantage in their military and political endeavors. They could, perhaps, predict when certain events were likely to occur based on past cycles, allowing them to time their actions to perfection. But the true significance of this knowledge was not just about military strategy or political power. It was about understanding the greater cosmic plan that governed all things. By aligning themselves with this plan, the Templars believed they could fulfill their divine purpose and shape the world in accordance with their vision. In this sense, the Templars were not just warriors fighting for a cause. They were guardians of time itself, protectors of a knowledge that transcended the physical realm. They believed that by understanding the flow of time and aligning their actions with the cosmic cycles, they could influence the course of history and fulfill their divine mission. This belief is evident in their sacred rituals, which often revolved around the celestial movements and the sacred geometry of the universe. The Templars' connection to time was not just intellectual. It was spiritual, metaphysical, and deeply tied to their sense of purpose as an order. Their belief in the divine nature of time was what ultimately set them apart from other military orders of the time. Their enemies may have fought for land, power, and wealth, but the Templars fought for something far more profound: the fulfillment of a cosmic destiny. The question that remains, however, is whether the Templars truly understood time in this way, or whether it was merely the product of their religious zeal and their desire to justify their actions. Some argue that the Templars' obsession with time and prophecy was simply a reflection of their deeply religious worldview, one that sought to see the divine hand in every aspect of life. This view suggests that the Templars' understanding of time was not based on a deep, esoteric knowledge of the universe, but rather on a belief that the divine was guiding their every action. The Templars, in this view, were simply following a divine plan, with time as a means to measure and interpret that plan. Regardless of whether the Templars' understanding of time was divinely inspired or simply a reflection of their desire to control the world around them, their belief in the importance of timing is clear. Whether it was in their military campaigns, their political maneuvering, or their religious practices, the Templars were acutely aware of the role that timing played in their success. This understanding of time as a force that could be harnessed, interpreted, and acted upon gave them an extraordinary advantage over their enemies, one that would have made them formidable opponents in the struggle for power and influence. Yet, as with all knowledge, the Templars' understanding of time was not universally accepted. As their power grew and their influence spread, so did the suspicion and fear that surrounded them. The Church, which had once supported the Templars' mission, began to view their growing wealth and power as a threat. And when King Philip IV of France, deeply in debt to the Templars, sought to break their influence, he found an ally in Pope Clement V, who was all too eager to dismantle the order. In 1307, Philip IV initiated a brutal campaign to arrest and execute the leaders of the Templar order, effectively ending their reign of influence. The order was officially disbanded in 1312, and the Templars were erased from the historical record. But the knowledge they possessed, particularly their understanding of time, did not vanish with them. It is believed by many that the secrets of the Templars were not destroyed but rather hidden away. Some claim that the Templars encoded their knowledge into symbols and rituals, passing it down to secret societies that would continue to safeguard their teachings. The Freemasons, for instance, have long been associated with the Templars, and many believe that they inherited the Templars' esoteric knowledge, including their understanding of time and the celestial cycles. The Masonic rituals and symbols, with their focus on sacred geometry, the cosmic order, and the passing of time, bear a striking resemblance to the Templars' own mystical beliefs. But the question remains, what exactly did the Templars know? What was the extent of their understanding of time, and how did they use it to shape the world around them? The answers to these questions are not readily available, but it is clear that the Templars' relationship with time was not simply a matter of philosophical curiosity. It was a practical, powerful tool that they used to navigate the complex and tumultuous world they inhabited. Time, for the Templars, was not just a measurement. It was a force that could be harnessed, manipulated, and used to achieve their ends. The Templars' deep understanding of time, whether derived from ancient knowledge, religious belief, or a combination of both, is perhaps their most enduring legacy. While their wealth and military power may have been stripped away, their knowledge of time, their ability to read the rhythms of the cosmos, remains an essential part of their story. The idea that they could predict the future, influence the course of history, and align themselves with divine forces is both awe-inspiring and unsettling. And it is this mystery, this lingering question of what the Templars truly knew, that continues to captivate and intrigue those who seek to uncover the hidden forces that shape our world. As the Templars' legacy is examined through the lens of history, one can't help but wonder about the depths of the secrets they may have left behind. Their extraordinary understanding of time, rooted in ancient knowledge and cosmological insights, was a thread that wove its way through their military, religious, and financial endeavors. But when the order was disbanded, these secrets didn't simply vanish into the annals of time. Instead, they appeared to be hidden, obscured by layers of conspiracy, religious suppression, and political intrigue. The questions surrounding their fate after their sudden dissolution are as compelling as they are mysterious. If they were so adept at understanding time, could they have planned for their own destruction, or perhaps even orchestrated it in order to protect their most coveted knowledge? The sudden downfall of the Templars, while politically motivated, has always struck many as something more deliberate, something more profound than just a battle for power. It seems almost as if the Templars knew that their time in the public eye was coming to an end, and instead of attempting to preserve their organization, they sought to ensure that the knowledge they had amassed would be hidden, safeguarded from those who would misuse it. This idea is rooted in the belief that the Templars' understanding of time wasn't merely intellectual or academic. It was tied to their spiritual mission, their very essence as an order. Time, for them, was not just a backdrop to history. It was a living, breathing force, one that was intricately linked to their destiny and purpose. The more we look at the nature of their downfall, the more this theory begins to take shape. King Philip IV, driven by greed, had sought to seize the Templars' wealth, and Pope Clement V, under immense pressure, complied with his demands. But there was something else at play, something that can't be explained away by political maneuvering or financial necessity alone. It's as though the Templars' very existence was predicated on a larger, more cosmic plan, and when that plan came to its final chapter, they chose to close the book themselves. Rather than face annihilation in the traditional sense, they ensured that their knowledge would survive, not in the form of their wealth or the physical remnants of their order, but in more covert ways, deeply encoded and hidden in the corners of history. It's important to note that the Templars' connection to secret societies, particularly the Freemasons, is more than just speculation. There are strong historical ties that suggest that much of the Templar knowledge, particularly that relating to their understanding of time, was passed down to these secret groups. The Freemasons, an organization steeped in symbolism, ritual, and esoteric knowledge, have long been suspected of having inherited not only the Templars' material wealth but also their deep, hidden wisdom. The similarities between Masonic symbols and Templar iconography are undeniable, and many scholars believe that the Freemasons represent the continuation of the Templars' legacy, though it is likely that much of this knowledge has been obscured over the centuries. The idea that secret societies like the Freemasons were entrusted with preserving the Templars' knowledge makes sense, given the political and religious climate of the time. In an age where institutions like the Church and the monarchy were threatened by the Templars' growing influence, it stands to reason that these societies would have been entrusted with safeguarding their deepest secrets, including their understanding of time and the cosmic cycles that govern the world. But the Freemasons are not the only group believed to have inherited Templar knowledge. There are also those who argue that the Templars' secrets were passed down through the creation of powerful symbols and hidden codes embedded in the architecture of the great cathedrals they built. These cathedrals, like the ones in Chartres, Notre Dame, and others across Europe, were not merely places of worship. They were grand statements of cosmic understanding, filled with hidden messages and symbols that reveal the Templars' profound relationship with time and the universe. For example, the design of many of these cathedrals incorporates sacred geometry and astronomical alignments, pointing to a deeper, more esoteric understanding of the cosmos. These architectural marvels are believed to hold within them the knowledge of the Templars, encrypted in the very structure of the buildings. It's possible that the Templars encoded their timekeeping knowledge in these cathedrals, leaving clues for future generations to uncover. This interpretation opens up a vast world of possibility. Could the Templars have hidden not only their material wealth but also their understanding of time in plain sight, disguised as part of their religious devotion? The idea that the Templars were aware of time as a cosmic force, and that they used this awareness to shape their actions, becomes increasingly plausible when we consider the historical context in which they lived. The medieval world, though steeped in religious fervor, was also a time of astronomical and scientific curiosity. The Templars, as an order that spanned both Europe and the Middle East, would have had access to a vast array of ancient knowledge. From the Babylonian and Egyptian traditions, which were steeped in the study of the stars and the cyclical nature of the universe, to the sophisticated mathematical and astronomical systems of the Persians, the Templars' travels would have exposed them to some of the most advanced timekeeping systems of the ancient world. This would have placed them at the intersection of science, religion, and mysticism, giving them a unique advantage in understanding the deeper patterns of life. What's more, the Templars were known for their wealth and their involvement in banking, which was a revolutionary concept for their time. Their financial practices, particularly their use of a system of letters of credit, allowed them to move vast sums of money across Europe and the Holy Land with ease. The idea that they could not only manipulate the world's financial systems but also understand the flow of time and cosmic events adds another layer of sophistication to their legacy. Time, after all, is just another form of currency, one that can be used to accumulate power, wealth, and influence. The Templars were masters at manipulating the flow of money, and it stands to reason that they would have been equally adept at manipulating the flow of time, whether through their military campaigns, political maneuvering, or financial dealings. But what happens when an organization like the Templars, one that has mastered time in such a profound way, is faced with its imminent destruction? The answer to this question, at least in part, may lie in the Templars' sudden and mysterious disappearance. The idea that they could have foreseen their fall, predicted the downfall of their order, and chosen to hide their most valuable secrets is a possibility that cannot be easily dismissed. In fact, it may very well be the key to understanding their enigmatic legacy. They may have understood that their time in the public sphere had come to an end, but that their true knowledge, particularly their understanding of time, had to be preserved for future generations, hidden in ways that would ensure its survival long after their downfall. The idea that the Templars' knowledge survived in secret societies, in sacred architecture, and in hidden symbols suggests that their understanding of time is far from lost. If anything, it may be more relevant today than ever before. In our modern world, where time is increasingly seen as a commodity to be managed and manipulated, the Templars' understanding of time as a cosmic cyclical force is a concept that can offer new insights into how we perceive and engage with the world around us. Could the Templars have had a deeper understanding of time that goes beyond what we currently know? Could their knowledge hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of the universe, and perhaps even provide answers to some of the most profound questions about the nature of existence? As we continue to look for the lost secrets of the Templars, it's clear that their legacy is far from being merely a historical curiosity. The Templars' knowledge of time, if it is ever fully understood, has the potential to change the way we see the world. Whether through secret societies, sacred architecture, or hidden codes, the Templars have left us a trail to follow, one that may ultimately lead to an understanding of time that could revolutionize the way we think about our place in the universe. The Templars' understanding of time, once thought to be lost forever, may yet hold the key to unlocking the deepest mysteries of existence. The fascination with the Templars has always been colored by the mystery surrounding their rise and fall, but more than that, it has been their secret knowledge and their ability to manipulate forces beyond the ordinary that continue to captivate those who seek to understand the true nature of their power. One of the most compelling elements of their story is not merely their military or financial dominance, but their possible access to a hidden knowledge that could manipulate time itself. The question that has lingered through the centuries, especially after their dramatic dissolution, is not just how the Templars were able to rise to such power, but what they understood about the very fabric of time and reality. When we look back at the Templars, their apparent ability to predict or even control the flow of events raises eyebrows. They didn't simply engage in battle. They understood when to strike, when to retreat, and perhaps most mysteriously of all, when to disappear. Their swift and sudden demise in 1307, as orchestrated by King Philip IV and Pope Clement V, seems to have been less a random act of political revenge and more the result of a strategic and well-executed plan to ensure that the most sacred of their knowledge remained hidden. The Templars were not simply eradicated. They disappeared in a manner that suggests their understanding of time was not confined to the physical realm. The key to unlocking the true mystery of the Templars lies in their understanding of time as something far greater than the linear, clock-bound concept of time we are familiar with today. The Templars, particularly during their time in the Holy Land, would have been exposed to the ancient knowledge of civilizations that understood time in a much more profound way. The Egyptians, Sumerians, and Babylonians, to name just a few, had a rich tradition of viewing time not as an isolated entity but as a cyclical, interwoven force that impacted not just the stars and seasons but the very destinies of humankind. This ancient understanding, passed down through the ages, was likely something the Templars absorbed and made their own. As the Templars delved deeper into this knowledge, they may have come to view time not as a fixed progression but as a set of interconnected cycles, an eternal flow that shapes the course of events, including the rise and fall of empires, kingdoms, and civilizations. This cyclical concept of time could have given them a distinct advantage over other powers of their time. By recognizing patterns and aligning themselves with the celestial movements, the Templars may have been able to predict future events or even manipulate the course of history itself. This understanding, once held by ancient civilizations, may have been one of the most guarded secrets of the Templars. However, as we know, the Templars did not live forever, and their understanding of time, while likely far more sophisticated than that of their contemporaries, did not prevent their sudden fall. Their destruction was swift, leaving the world to wonder whether their knowledge of time was the very thing that led to their undoing. One could speculate that the Templars, understanding the cyclical nature of time, had seen their demise coming. Perhaps they had foreseen the political and financial turmoil that would lead to their dissolution. But rather than resisting this fate, it's possible that they chose to allow it, believing that their knowledge and legacy would transcend their physical existence and would survive in other forms. What is especially intriguing is the possibility that the Templars' understanding of time was not just a philosophical or intellectual pursuit. They may have applied this knowledge in ways that impacted their practical actions. The Templars were, after all, warriors, monks, yes, but also soldiers, fighting in the Crusades and embroiled in the complex political and religious dynamics of medieval Europe. The military precision with which they operated, the strategic foresight they demonstrated, and the calculated manner in which they established their power suggest that their relationship with time was not just abstract. They understood the significance of timing, not just in the physical sense, but as a cosmic concept that could influence the outcome of battles, the rise and fall of kings, and the fate of nations. But what happened to their knowledge when the order was disbanded? After their final moments in the public eye, the Templars were scattered, their properties seized, and their leaders executed or imprisoned. Yet, it's possible that the Templars' knowledge did not disappear along with their physical assets. Instead, it may have been concealed, passed down through various secret societies, encoded into symbols, and hidden in places that have yet to be discovered by mainstream historians. The possibility that their esoteric knowledge was preserved through hidden symbols and rituals points to the idea that the Templars' understanding of time is still with us today, though it remains obscured. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Templars' legacy is their connection to the secret societies that flourished after their demise. The Freemasons, in particular, have long been linked to the Templars, with many believing that they inherited not only their symbols but also their profound understanding of time and cosmic cycles. The Freemasons, like the Templars, possess a rich tradition of secrecy, symbolism, and ritual. Many of the Masonic symbols, such as the compass and square, reflect a deep understanding of geometry, proportion, and the movement of celestial bodies. The use of sacred geometry in Masonic architecture, the emphasis on the importance of timing, and the reverence for ancient wisdom are all elements that point to a connection between the Freemasons and the Templars. It's plausible that the Templars deliberately passed down their esoteric knowledge to the Freemasons as a way of ensuring its survival. The Freemasons, with their elaborate rituals and secret teachings, were well-positioned to preserve the Templar legacy while also protecting it from the prying eyes of the Church and the state. In this way, the Templars' secret knowledge could have been passed down through the generations, hidden in plain sight, encrypted in the symbols and rituals of the Freemasons and other secret societies. Over time, this knowledge may have become obscured, but the foundational concepts of time and cosmic cycles could still remain embedded in the practices and traditions of these organizations. The possibility that the Templars' knowledge of time was encoded in hidden symbols, secret teachings, and sacred architecture opens up a world of speculation about what might still be concealed from view. Throughout Europe, many of the great cathedrals and churches that were constructed during the Templar period feature elaborate designs and layouts that reflect an understanding of time and the cosmos. From the use of sacred geometry to the alignment of structures with astronomical events, the architecture of these buildings may hold the key to unlocking the Templars' hidden knowledge. Some historians and researchers have suggested that the Templars encoded their understanding of time into the very stones of these cathedrals, using their geometry and symbolism as a means of passing down their esoteric wisdom. The cathedrals, with their towering spires and intricate designs, may be more than just religious monuments. They may be repositories of Templar knowledge, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with the right understanding of the cosmic cycles to unlock their secrets. In this way, the Templars' legacy could still be very much alive today, hidden within the architecture of the world's most famous buildings. Their knowledge of time, which transcended the ordinary understanding of time as a linear progression, could be preserved in the very fabric of the physical world, encoded in the geometry and alignment of these sacred structures. The question, then, becomes, if this knowledge is hidden, what does it mean for us today? What happens if we are able to unlock the secrets that the Templars left behind? Time, in their view, was not just a tool for measuring days and hours. It was a powerful force that shaped the destiny of mankind. If their understanding of time is still with us, it could have profound implications for our own understanding of history, the present, and the future. Could the Templars have known something that we don't yet understand about the way time works? Something that could change our perception of the world and our place in it? Perhaps, in the end, the Templars were not just concerned with the rise and fall of empires, but with a deeper, more cosmic purpose, one that transcended political power and material wealth. Their understanding of time, rooted in ancient knowledge, may have given them a unique perspective on the universe, one that placed them in tune with the rhythms of the cosmos. By studying these rhythms and aligning themselves with them, the Templars may have believed that they could fulfill their divine purpose and shape the future of humanity in ways that others could not. And if their knowledge is still hidden, waiting to be rediscovered, it could hold the key to a deeper understanding of time itself, and with it, a new understanding of the forces that shape our world. The question of what the Templars truly knew about time and how they used that knowledge to navigate history is one that remains unanswered. But the clues are there, scattered across history, encoded in symbols, rituals, and architecture. Whether we will ever fully uncover these secrets remains to be seen, but the mystery surrounding their understanding of time is sure to continue to intrigue and inspire those who seek to unlock the hidden knowledge of the past. The story of the Templars, their rise to prominence, and their eventual fall is one filled with intrigue, betrayal, and mystery. However, what stands out most in this narrative is not merely their military prowess, wealth, or religious zeal, but their seemingly otherworldly connection to hidden knowledge. While much of this knowledge remains obscured by time, one of the most compelling aspects is their deep and profound understanding of the cosmos. Their knowledge of time, specifically the cycles of the universe, wasn't just a theological curiosity or an academic exercise. It was integral to the Templars' very identity and mission. To understand this knowledge, we must delve deeper into what they understood about time, how they harnessed it, and the possible ramifications of that knowledge. The Templars' most significant accomplishment may not have been their battle victories or the treasures they amassed, but rather the way they perceived the flow of time. It was not linear in the traditional sense, but cyclical, akin to the ancient understanding of time as a repeating series of events, ever turning like a wheel. Ancient civilizations, from the Egyptians to the Mayans, understood time not as a simple progression of moments, but as a force that ebbed and flowed in cycles, each one building on the last. The Templars, as they ventured through the Holy Land, were exposed to the wisdom of these ancient cultures, learning from them, and perhaps even integrating their understandings into their own spiritual and military strategies. What they took from these ancient traditions, however, was more than just a theoretical concept. It was a living, breathing force that could potentially alter the course of history. It is known that the Templars spent time in the East during the Crusades, and this period of their history is often regarded as one of the most transformative for the order. In their travels, the Templars encountered cultures steeped in ancient wisdom, particularly the Egyptians and the Persians, whose knowledge of astronomy and timekeeping was far beyond that of the Europeans of the time. The Egyptians, for example, were well versed in the movements of the stars, the alignment of the sun and the moon, and the cosmic cycles that govern the ebb and flow of seasons, life, and death. This knowledge wasn't just practical, it was sacred. The Egyptians understood that time was a divine construct, one that could be interpreted and understood through the movements of the heavens. The Templars, with their keen minds and thirst for knowledge, would have been eager to absorb this wisdom. The question, then, is how they applied it. Could it be that the Templars didn't just passively observe the celestial bodies, but that they actively sought to harness the power of the cosmic cycles? The very structure of the Templar order suggests that they were more than just soldiers. They were scholars, mystics, and men of deep spiritual conviction. This unique blend of warfare and spirituality may have made them especially attuned to the deeper forces of the universe, and their understanding of time may have been central to their mission. In their military campaigns, the Templars were known for their precision and timing. Their attacks were often meticulously planned, and they were capable of striking at the perfect moment to maximize their success. This wasn't just good strategy, it may have been a direct result of their deep understanding of the cycles of time. But what was the true nature of this knowledge? Could the Templars have been able to perceive time in a way that others could not? What if they understood the subtle interplay of cosmic forces, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the moments in history that could shift the balance of power? The Templars' knowledge of time wasn't just about knowing when to attack or when to retreat. It was about understanding the grand design of the universe and aligning themselves with it. In this sense, they weren't merely reacting to events as they happened, but rather positioning themselves within a grand cosmic plan, knowing that certain moments in time would be more auspicious than others for their success. As we look back on the Templars' time in the Holy Land, it's clear that they were exposed to a wealth of knowledge, both spiritual and astronomical, that was centuries ahead of the Western world. They weren't just fighting in the Crusades, they were absorbing and internalizing a deeper understanding of the universe, one that tied them to the very fabric of time itself. Their military victories may have been a result of their ability to align their actions with the cycles of time, tapping into the hidden forces that govern the universe. This understanding of time would have been vital to the Templars, not just for their military campaigns but also for their spiritual endeavors. The Templars were a religious order, after all, and their primary mission was to protect the Christian faith. But their devotion to Christianity was not one that was limited to the teachings of the Church. The Templars were also involved in the study of sacred texts, mystical traditions, and esoteric knowledge. Their relationship with time wasn't just about understanding the material world, it was about perceiving the divine order that underpinned all of existence. By understanding the cycles of time, they believed they could better align themselves with the divine will and, in doing so, further their spiritual mission. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Templars' understanding of time is how it may have influenced their behavior during their most critical moments. In 1307, the Templars faced the wrath of King Philip IV of France, who, driven by greed and a desire for power, ordered the arrest of the Templar Knights. The Templars' sudden fall has long been a subject of speculation. Many have wondered if they were blindsided by the attack, or whether they knew it was coming. If the Templars truly understood the cyclical nature of time, it is possible that they foresaw their downfall. It's even possible that they allowed it to happen, knowing that their order was coming to an end, but with the foresight that their knowledge would survive through other means. Could it be that the Templars, aware of the inevitable dissolution of their order, took measures to ensure that their secrets, particularly their understanding of time, would survive for future generations? It's possible that, in their final days, the Templars encoded their most sacred knowledge into hidden symbols, secret rituals, and obscure teachings that would be passed down to select individuals or groups, ensuring that their legacy would continue long after their order was officially dismantled. One theory that has gained traction over the years is that the Templars' knowledge was passed down through the Freemasons, a secret society that emerged in the years following the Templars' disbandment. The Freemasons, much like the Templars, have long been associated with hidden knowledge, symbols, and rituals, and many scholars believe that they inherited much of the Templars' esoteric wisdom. The connection between the Templars and the Freemasons is not just based on speculation. There are striking similarities in their rituals, symbols, and even organizational structure. The Freemasons, like the Templars, revere the use of sacred geometry, celestial alignments, and the concept of a divine plan that governs the universe. Could the Templars have passed their understanding of time, along with their spiritual and cosmic knowledge, on to the Freemasons? If so, this would explain why the knowledge of time that the Templars possessed has continued to influence secret societies and esoteric traditions to this day. The possibility that the Templars encoded their understanding of time into symbols, architecture, and secret rituals adds another layer of intrigue to their legacy. Throughout Europe, The great cathedrals, many of which were constructed with the Templars' involvement, are filled with geometric patterns, astronomical alignments, and sacred symbolism that may hold the key to unlocking their hidden knowledge. The use of sacred geometry in the design of these cathedrals suggests a deeper understanding of the cosmos, one that was passed down from ancient civilizations and perhaps preserved by the Templars themselves. These architectural masterpieces could very well be repositories of the Templars' knowledge, waiting to be decoded by those who understand the deeper meaning behind their design. The Templars' connection to time was not simply intellectual. It was deeply spiritual. By aligning themselves with the cycles of the cosmos, they believed they were in harmony with the divine. Time, for them, wasn't a human construct. It was a manifestation of divine will, a force that shaped the very fabric of existence. Understanding this cosmic order was, in their view, a path to spiritual enlightenment and fulfillment. The Templars may have believed that by understanding time, they could better align themselves with the divine plan, fulfilling their role as guardians of Christianity and protectors of sacred knowledge. The knowledge of time that the Templars possessed was not just a tool for military strategy or political maneuvering. It was a sacred gift, one that allowed them to navigate the flow of history with precision. It was a knowledge that transcended the physical world, allowing them to understand the deeper, more profound rhythms of existence. And while the Templars may no longer be with us in the same form, their legacy, particularly their understanding of time, continues to intrigue and inspire those who seek to uncover the mysteries of the past. The Templars' story is far from over, and the secrets they left behind may one day provide the key to unlocking the deepest mysteries of the universe. The downfall of the Knights Templar is one of the most dramatic and mysterious moments in the history of medieval Europe. At the height of their power, the Templars were an organization that controlled vast wealth, commanded significant military power, and influenced politics across Christendom. Yet, despite their unmatched influence and might, they were brought to their knees by a combination of political maneuvering, betrayal, and possibly an understanding of time and fate that left them prepared for an inevitable fall. The ultimate question that lingers in the shadows of this tragic collapse is whether the Templars' destruction was the result of mere political machinations, or whether there was a deeper, almost fateful, aspect to their demise, an aspect linked to the very forces of time and destiny that they so profoundly understood. To understand this, it is crucial to delve into the political and spiritual context of the time. The Templars were a powerful military order, founded in the early 12th century during the Crusades, tasked with protecting Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. Over time, they accumulated not just vast amounts of wealth and land, but also political influence and military prowess that made them indispensable to the rulers of Europe. Their influence stretched from the heart of Europe to the far reaches of the Holy Land. However, with great power came great enemies. The Templars' wealth, their success in the Crusades, and their autonomy, particularly their status as a religious order not fully answerable to secular rulers, would eventually lead to their downfall. The tipping point came in the early 14th century, when King Philip IV of France, heavily in debt to the Templars, sought to seize their wealth. At the same time, the French monarchy had become embroiled in conflict with the Church, and Philip's ambitions were no secret. In a moment of profound political desperation, Philip turned to Pope Clement V, pressuring him to act against the Templars. What followed was a campaign of arrests, torture, and execution of the Templar leaders, culminating in the public trial and disbandment of the order in 1312. While the motives behind this attack seem clear, Philip wanted the Templars' wealth to relieve his financial burdens and further his own political goals. The speed and ferocity with which the Templars were eradicated raise an intriguing question. Was there more to their destruction than mere greed and politics? Could the Templars have foreseen their fall? Did they, with their deep understanding of time, know that the end was near? The very notion that the Templars' fall was written into the cycles of time itself, that they could have predicted and even prepared for their own demise, adds a layer of complexity to their story. The Templars' knowledge of time, honed through their study of ancient cultures and mystical traditions, may have given them a sense of the inevitable, a sense that the forces at play were beyond even their control. This brings us to an uncomfortable thought. Was the destruction of the Templars not simply a tragedy but an essential part of their grand cosmic plan? a necessary step in the fulfillment of a destiny that they had long understood? There are several elements that suggest the Templars may have foreseen their fall. First, there is the highly strategic nature of their disbandment. While most military orders of the time fought to maintain their power until the very end, the Templars seem to have accepted their fate with a certain quiet resignation. They did not put up the same kind of organized resistance one might expect from such a powerful and resourceful organization. Some have argued that this lack of resistance indicates that the Templars knew the end was coming, and in some ways they may have even allowed it to happen. This theory suggests that the Templars' understanding of the cosmic cycles, their profound knowledge of time, may have led them to believe that their fall was an inevitable and even necessary part of a larger divine plan. The Templars' acceptance of their fate is even more intriguing when we consider the possibility that their fall was preordained, linked to the very cycles of time that they so deeply revered. The idea of time as a cyclical, repeating force was something the Templars would have been familiar with through their exposure to ancient cultures, such as the Egyptians and Babylonians, who understood time not as a linear progression but as a series of repeating patterns. This cyclical view of time suggests that the Templars may have seen themselves not as a permanent fixture in history, but as a part of a larger pattern, one that would inevitably rise and fall just like the sun, the moon, or the seasons. If the Templars understood time in this way, then their downfall might have been seen not as a tragedy, but as a necessary part of the greater cosmic order. This understanding of time, as a cyclical force rather than a linear one, was central to many ancient cultures and spiritual traditions. The Egyptians, for instance, believed in the concept of the eternal return, where events and experiences are bound to repeat themselves in cycles. This view of time suggests that history is not a straight line but a repeating spiral, with each cycle building on the previous one. The Templars, as an order steeped in mysticism and ancient knowledge, may have embraced this worldview. It is possible that they understood their time as an order was limited, that they were not meant to last forever, and that their fall was part of a divine rhythm. In this sense, their fall may not have been the result of human error or political failure, but rather the natural conclusion to a cosmic cycle that they had seen coming. The Templars' acceptance of this cosmic destiny may explain why, in the face of seemingly insurmountable opposition, they chose not to resist in the typical fashion. Instead, they quietly dispersed, leaving behind only cryptic symbols, hidden teachings, and a legacy that would haunt history for centuries. They may have understood that their purpose was not to last forever, but to pass on the knowledge they had gained and to ensure that it would survive through other means. This idea fits well with the Templars' focus on secrecy, which was a central tenet of their order. If they had the foresight to know that their time as a visible force in history was coming to an end, it makes sense that they would have left behind encoded symbols and hidden teachings, ensuring that their knowledge would live on in a different form. One of the most enduring mysteries of the Templars' fall is the question of whether they left behind any physical evidence of their knowledge of time. Some historians believe that the Templars encoded their most important teachings, particularly those relating to their understanding of time and the cosmic order, into symbols, artifacts, and sacred architecture. There are numerous examples of this, particularly in the cathedrals and churches that the Templars helped to build across Europe. These buildings are not just works of religious art. Many contain hidden symbols and esoteric messages that point to the Templars' deep knowledge of cosmic cycles and sacred geometry. The cathedrals themselves may serve as a kind of secret archive, with their very design reflecting the Templars' understanding of the rhythms of time. The use of sacred geometry, astronomical alignments, and cryptic symbolism in these buildings suggests that the Templars may have encoded their knowledge of time into the very stones of the churches they constructed. This knowledge, hidden in plain sight, may have been intended as a way for future generations to rediscover the Templars' teachings when the time was right. In this way, the Templars' legacy would survive not in the form of an enduring military order, but as a hidden repository of ancient wisdom. The destruction of the Templars, then, may not have been an end but a transformation, a shift in the way their knowledge would be transmitted through the ages. The Templars understood that the cosmic cycles that governed their rise and fall would continue to operate long after they were gone. And while their physical presence in the world may have ended, their teachings about time and the universe could be passed on through secret societies, encoded symbols, and the architecture they left behind. This idea leads us to one of the most intriguing questions about the Templars. Did they choose their end, or was it forced upon them? If they truly understood the cycles of time, they may have known that their order could not survive in its current form. In the grand sweep of history, perhaps the Templars' fall was always meant to happen. But rather than fighting against it, they may have chosen to bow out gracefully, knowing that their legacy would endure in ways that transcended the physical world. If this is the case, then the story of the Templars is not one of failure, but of triumph, an enduring legacy that continues to influence the course of history, even long after their fall from grace. Ultimately, the downfall of the Templars may not just be a cautionary tale about power, politics, and betrayal. It could also be a reminder of the profound influence that time and fate can have on human events. The Templars understood that their rise and fall were not simply the result of human actions, but part of a larger cosmic order, one that they were uniquely attuned to. Their ability to foresee their own destruction and accept it with grace speaks to their deep understanding of time as a cyclical force. And perhaps, in the end, it is this understanding, this connection to the eternal flow of time, that is their most lasting legacy. The mystery of the Templars' fall is often associated with betrayal, political ambition, and the machinations of kings and popes, but perhaps there is a deeper, more profound aspect to their disappearance, one rooted in their esoteric beliefs and profound understanding of the universe. While history paints a picture of their destruction through the hands of King Philip IV of France and Pope Clement V, the question remains: could the Templars have knowingly orchestrated their downfall as a part of a larger, cosmic design? Was their destruction a necessary conclusion to their journey, a moment preordained by the very cycles of time they had so deeply studied and understood? One of the most enduring aspects of the Templar order is their connection to the mystical and the unknown. While the Templars were, on the surface, a religious military order sworn to protect Christian pilgrims during the Crusades, they were also steeped in esoteric knowledge. This knowledge, passed down through ancient traditions and shrouded in secrecy, was a defining feature of their identity. The Templars were known to have an affinity for ancient spiritual practices and philosophies, incorporating elements of mysticism and sacred geometry into their daily lives and rituals. Their understanding of time, much like their understanding of the universe itself, was not limited to the conventional linear progression of past, present, and future. Instead, they viewed time as a cyclical, dynamic force, a cosmic rhythm that governed not just the movements of the heavens but also the rise and fall of civilizations, the fortunes of kings, and the fate of empires. For the Templars, time was not a static measurement, but a fluid, interconnected force that could be understood, interpreted, and even influenced. Their knowledge of time extended beyond mere astrology or astronomy. It encompassed an understanding of the larger, cosmic cycles that defined existence itself. These cycles were not just theoretical or abstract concepts, but tangible forces that could shape events in the material world. The Templars believed that by understanding these cycles, they could align themselves with the natural order of the universe, ensuring that their actions were in harmony with the divine will. This belief in the cyclical nature of time is crucial to understanding their eventual fall. In the years leading up to the Templars' destruction, there were many signs that pointed to a shift in the cosmic order, a change that would mark the end of an era for the order. The rise of King Philip IV, who sought to consolidate power and wealth at any cost, was one such sign. His decision to arrest the Templars and seize their vast fortunes was not merely an act of political ambition. It was the beginning of a cosmic reordering, a moment that would disrupt the balance of power that the Templars had long enjoyed. For an order that had long viewed the cycles of time as a divine rhythm, the actions of Philip IV may have seemed like a preordained moment, a necessary disruption in the flow of history. The Templars, with their understanding of time and destiny, may have recognized this disruption as a turning point, an inevitable conclusion to a long-running cycle. Their rise to power, much like their fall, may have been part of a larger cosmic plan. They understood that their time in the world was finite, and that their fall was as much a part of the divine design as their rise had been. In this sense, their destruction was not a failure, but a fulfillment of a greater purpose. The Templars, perhaps, knew that their order had to be dismantled in order to allow for new forces to emerge and shape the world in a different direction. The idea that the Templars were aware of their impending fall raises questions about their behavior during the final days of their existence. Rather than putting up a strong resistance to the charges brought against them by King Philip IV, the Templars seem to accept their fate with a certain degree of calm. This lack of resistance is often cited as evidence that the Templars knew the end was coming, and that they were not merely victims of political intrigue, but participants in a larger cosmic drama. The idea that they allowed their own destruction is difficult for many to accept, but it is consistent with their belief in the cyclical nature of time. The Templars may have seen their fall not as a tragedy, but as a necessary step in the unfolding of history, one that would ultimately serve a greater purpose. This perspective is particularly compelling when we consider the Templars' connection to ancient traditions of esoteric knowledge. Throughout their history, the Templars were associated with a variety of secret teachings, many of which were rooted in ancient mystical practices. These teachings, which included elements of sacred geometry, alchemy, and astrology, were passed down through the centuries, often encoded in symbols and rituals that only a select few could understand. The Templars' knowledge of time was an integral part of this esoteric tradition. They believed that by understanding the cycles of time, they could tap into the divine order and align themselves with the cosmic flow of the universe. The concept of time as a cyclical, repeating force was not unique to the Templars. It was a central belief in many ancient cultures, including the Egyptians, Babylonians, and Mayans. These civilizations understood time as a dynamic, living force that was intimately connected to the movements of the stars and planets. The Templars, as an order that spanned both Europe and the Middle East, would have been exposed to these ancient traditions of timekeeping and cosmology. They may have learned to view time as a grand, interconnected web, with each cycle building on the last, and each event unfolding in accordance with the larger rhythms of the cosmos. By understanding these rhythms, the Templars believed they could predict the future and align themselves with the divine will. This knowledge gave them a unique advantage over other powers of the time, allowing them to act with precision and foresight in their military campaigns, financial dealings, and political maneuvering. The Templars' ability to perceive the flow of time gave them an almost supernatural edge, allowing them to predict events and shape their actions in accordance with the cosmic cycles. But if the Templars truly understood the cycles of time, then their fall was not an unexpected event. It was a part of the larger pattern of history. In this sense, their destruction was not the result of human error or political failure, but the fulfillment of a cosmic order that they had long understood. The rise and fall of civilizations, the fortunes of kings, and the destiny of individuals were all part of a grand design, one that the Templars were uniquely attuned to. Their role in this design may have been to rise to power, acquire knowledge, and then pass that knowledge on to future generations before their order was dissolved. The Templars' acceptance of their fate also suggests a certain detachment from worldly power, a belief that their true purpose lay not in the accumulation of wealth or political influence, but in the preservation and transmission of their knowledge. The idea that they willingly allowed themselves to be destroyed in order to protect their secrets adds a layer of nobility and self-sacrifice to their story. In this light, their fall can be seen as a fulfillment of their mission, rather than a failure. This notion is further supported by the Templars' connection to the Freemasons, a secret society that emerged in the years following the disbandment of the Templar order. Many scholars have suggested that the Freemasons inherited much of the Templars' esoteric knowledge, including their understanding of time and the cosmic cycles. The symbols and rituals of the Freemasons, with their emphasis on sacred geometry, astronomy, and cosmic order, reflect many of the same beliefs that the Templars held. If the Templars' knowledge of time was indeed passed down through the Freemasons, then their destruction may have been part of a larger plan to ensure the survival of their teachings in a different form. The Templars' legacy, then, may not have been intended to endure in the traditional sense. Their wealth, military power, and political influence may have been important for a time, but their true purpose may have been to preserve and pass on their knowledge to future generations. The Templars may have understood that their time as a visible force in the world was limited, but that their teachings would continue to resonate in the future, long after their order had been dissolved. This idea challenges the conventional narrative of the Templars as victims of political intrigue and betrayal. Instead, it suggests that their fall was not a tragic end, but a conscious decision to step away from the world stage and allow their knowledge to survive in secret. Their destruction may have been the final act of a greater plan, one that was guided by the very cycles of time that they had studied so deeply. The Templars' story, then, is not just one of military conquest and political power. It is a story of cosmic wisdom, hidden knowledge, and the eternal flow of time. The end of the Templars' reign left an indelible mark on history, not just because of the dramatic political forces that destroyed them, but also due to the long-lasting ripple effects of their disappearance. In the years that followed their fall, many began to wonder if the Templars had truly been destroyed or if they had instead chosen to retreat into the shadows, leaving behind a legacy that would continue to influence secret societies, politics, and even the structure of modern thought. The Templars were a paradox. Powerful, mysterious, and secretive. Their knowledge of time, sacred geometry, and the cosmic forces that govern the universe had been central to their identity. And some argue that this knowledge didn't simply vanish after their demise. In fact, many have suggested that the Templars' greatest legacy lies in the knowledge they left behind and the enigmatic ways in which it was preserved. The Templars' understanding of time was far more than just a matter of astronomy or astrological cycles. It was intricately linked to their spiritual practices, their architecture, and even the symbols they used. The idea that the universe is governed by cycles, rather than a linear progression of time, was central to their worldview. They saw time as a great, cosmic dance, a never-ending flow that influenced every part of the natural and spiritual worlds. Their commitment to preserving and understanding this knowledge is evident in the sacred structures they built, the symbols they used, and the way they encoded their beliefs into every aspect of their existence. This was a knowledge that transcended the physical world, tapping into the very fabric of the cosmos. But as the order was brought to its knees, what became of this knowledge? Was it lost forever, or did it survive in a more clandestine form? There are many theories about what happened to the Templars after their public downfall. Some claim that the order was completely eradicated, its members executed or scattered into the wind. However, other, more intriguing theories suggest that the Templars simply went underground, preserving their knowledge in secret and continuing to influence world events from the shadows. The most compelling argument in favor of this theory is the remarkable continuity of the Templars' symbols, practices, and knowledge, which seem to reappear in various secret societies and religious movements throughout history. One of the most notable groups that have been linked to the Templars is the Freemasons. Many scholars and historians have pointed out the striking similarities between the rituals and symbols of the Templars and those of the Freemasons, leading to speculation that the Freemasons inherited the Templars' knowledge and practices. The Freemasons, like the Templars, have a deep interest in sacred geometry, astrology, and the cycles of time. The use of symbolic language, the emphasis on ritual, and the importance placed on the mysteries of the universe all point to a possible transmission of Templar knowledge into the hands of the Freemasons. But what exactly did the Templars pass on? The most intriguing possibility is that they passed down their understanding of time and the cosmos, the very knowledge that had guided their actions and given them their power. The Templars' belief in the cyclical nature of time would have given them a unique perspective on the world. They would have seen the events of history not as isolated occurrences, but as part of a much larger, ongoing process. In their view, the rise and fall of civilizations, the ebb and flow of political power, and even the actions of individuals were all part of a greater cosmic plan. This understanding of time as a repeating cycle may have led them to believe that certain events, such as their own fall, were not accidents, but preordained moments in the ongoing flow of history. This understanding of time could have given the Templars a unique sense of purpose and clarity in their actions. If they believed that they were following a cosmic rhythm, then their actions would have been guided by a sense of divine will. They would have seen themselves as instruments of a larger plan, one that transcended the immediate political or military concerns of their time. This belief could explain why the Templars, when faced with their inevitable fall, chose not to fight back in the way that might have been expected of them. Instead, they may have accepted their fate as part of the larger cosmic design, understanding that their role in history was coming to an end. The knowledge they had accumulated would live on in other forms, perhaps preserved in the secret societies that emerged after their fall. This idea of the Templars' knowledge surviving in secret societies is particularly compelling when we consider the later history of the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and other esoteric organizations. These groups, many of which have been associated with the Templars, continue to emphasize the importance of sacred geometry, astrology, and the cyclical nature of time. It is not difficult to see how the Templars' understanding of time could have been passed down through these secret societies, preserved in their rituals and teachings. The Freemasons, for example, have long been associated with the use of symbolism and geometry to understand the universe. Their use of the square and compass, as well as their emphasis on the construction of sacred structures, all point to an ancient tradition of timekeeping and cosmic knowledge. But if the Templars' understanding of time did survive in these secret societies, what does it mean for us today? What can we learn from their knowledge, and how might it alter our understanding of the world? The key to unlocking these secrets lies in understanding the Templars' approach to time as a cyclical force. In their view, time was not something that was experienced in a straight line, moving from past to present to future. Instead, they saw time as a repeating cycle, where events and experiences would return in patterns, with each cycle building on the last. This view of time suggests that history is not a series of random events, but a process that follows certain rhythms and patterns. If the Templars were correct in their understanding, then the events of today may be part of a larger pattern, one that has been unfolding for millennia. This cyclical view of time also suggests that the rise and fall of civilizations is not a random occurrence, but a natural part of the cosmic order. Just as the seasons change and the tides ebb and flow, so too do the fortunes of nations and peoples. The Templars believed that by understanding these cycles, they could align themselves with the divine will and influence the course of history. Their ability to predict events and act in harmony with the rhythms of time gave them an edge over their contemporaries, allowing them to rise to power and influence. But it also meant that they understood that their time in the world was limited, that their order would eventually fall, just as the sun sets at the end of the day. The idea that the Templars understood their fall as a natural part of the cosmic cycle adds an entirely new dimension to their story. Instead of being the tragic victims of political intrigue, they may have seen their downfall as an inevitable part of a larger process, one that would ultimately lead to the preservation of their knowledge and teachings. The Templars' understanding of time as a repeating cycle may have given them the foresight to know that their order would not last forever, but that the knowledge they had accumulated would continue to shape the world in new ways. One of the most profound aspects of the Templars' legacy is their ability to influence the course of history from the shadows. While their physical presence may have been erased, their teachings and knowledge lived on in secret societies, religious movements, and the very architecture that they left behind. The cathedrals, churches, and temples that the Templars helped build are filled with esoteric symbols and cryptic messages, many of which point to their understanding of time and the cosmos. These structures, designed with sacred geometry and astronomical alignments, serve as silent witnesses to the Templars' knowledge, a knowledge that continues to inspire those who seek to uncover the mysteries of the universe. In the end, the Templars' story is not one of mere military conquest or religious devotion, but of cosmic wisdom, hidden knowledge, and the eternal flow of time. Their understanding of time as a cyclical force, a force that shapes the rise and fall of civilizations, continues to resonate in the world today. Whether through secret societies, hidden symbols, or the architecture they left behind, the Templars' legacy endures. Their greatest contribution to history may not have been their wealth or their military victories, but the knowledge they possessed, knowledge that, even after centuries of silence, continues to intrigue and inspire those who seek to understand the deeper rhythms of the universe. The Templars, with their deep understanding of time, sacred geometry, and the cosmic forces that govern the universe, left behind a legacy far more profound than their military victories or political influence. Their influence on the course of history was not limited to their immediate actions or the wealth they amassed. It extended into the very fabric of Western civilization, leaving subtle yet significant traces of their knowledge in places most would not expect. It was not merely their physical structures or the symbols they left behind that carried their influence. It was their esoteric wisdom, which, over the centuries, found its way into the hands of secret societies, religious groups, and thinkers who continued to explore the mysteries of time and the cosmos long after the fall of the Templar Order. This deep knowledge, preserved and transmitted by various organizations, served as a hidden thread woven through the tapestry of history. While the Templars themselves may have vanished from public view after their disbandment in the early 14th century, their teachings, particularly their understanding of time and the cyclical nature of existence, continued to permeate cultures and societies in ways that are still relevant today. But how did this knowledge survive? How did it manage to slip through the cracks of history, remaining hidden for so long? The answer lies in the very essence of the Templars' approach to knowledge itself, the careful preservation and passing down of secrets to those deemed worthy of understanding them. One of the most obvious ways in which the Templars' knowledge survived is through the secret societies that emerged after their dissolution. While the mainstream historical narrative paints a picture of the Templars being wiped out in one fell swoop, there is strong evidence to suggest that many of their members were able to escape or go into hiding, taking their knowledge with them. As the Templar Order was slowly dismantled by King Philip IV of France and Pope Clement V, many members of the order sought refuge in other groups, particularly those that shared similar mystical, spiritual, and esoteric values. The Freemasons, in particular, are often cited as one of the key groups that inherited the Templars' teachings and practices. The Freemasons, with their elaborate rituals, symbols, and obsession with sacred geometry, appear to carry the legacy of the Templars in more ways than one. It is not just the visual parallels, their use of symbols like the square and compass, that have raised eyebrows. It is their shared emphasis on the knowledge of cosmic cycles, time, and the divine order of the universe. The connection between the Templars and the Freemasons is not merely speculative. Scholars have pointed to the way Freemasonry emerged in the years following the Templars' destruction as evidence that the Templars' esoteric knowledge was passed down and preserved through these secretive groups. Freemasons have long held an interest in the idea of constructing a symbolic, spiritual temple, much like the Templars themselves were obsessed with building sacred structures that represented their understanding of the divine order of the universe. The cathedrals and churches that the Templars helped construct were not simply places of worship. They were expressions of the sacred geometry and celestial knowledge that the Templars had inherited from ancient civilizations, like the Egyptians and the Greeks, who also understood time as a cyclical force. The designs of these sacred buildings, often aligned with celestial bodies, served as more than just architectural feats. They were representations of the deeper truths of the universe, encoded in stone. While the Freemasons may have been the most prominent group to inherit the Templar legacy, they were far from the only ones. The teachings of the Templars also influenced other esoteric movements, such as the Rosicrucians and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. These groups, like the Freemasons, adopted elements of the Templars' mystical beliefs, particularly their focus on sacred geometry, astrology, and the cyclical nature of time. The Rosicrucians, for instance, were deeply interested in the concept of spiritual rebirth and transformation, ideas that are closely tied to the Templars' belief in the cyclical rhythms of the universe. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which was founded in the late 19th century, also drew heavily on esoteric knowledge that had been passed down through secret societies, including the Templars. The enduring influence of the Templars can be seen not only in these secret societies, but also in the intellectual and philosophical currents that shaped the modern world. The Templars' belief in the cyclical nature of time and the idea that history is shaped by repeating patterns have echoes in the works of philosophers and thinkers who sought to understand the deeper nature of reality. The concept of cyclical time is central to many philosophical traditions, from the ancient Greeks to Eastern philosophies like Hinduism and Buddhism. It can also be found in the work of modern philosophers such as Friedrich Nietzsche, who famously wrote about the idea of eternal recurrence, the notion that time is cyclical and that all events repeat themselves infinitely. The idea that history is cyclical rather than linear has had a profound impact on the way we think about time, progress, and the unfolding of events. The Templars, with their unique understanding of time, may have been among the first to recognize the deeper, cyclical structure of history, and their teachings may have helped shape the intellectual currents that would later influence Western thought. The very fact that this idea has persisted across centuries, influencing thinkers, philosophers, and mystics, suggests that the Templars' understanding of time was not just a passing curiosity, but a fundamental truth that transcends cultures and eras. One of the most powerful aspects of the Templars' legacy is the way their knowledge was preserved through symbolism. The Templars, like many ancient civilizations, understood that knowledge could be passed down through symbols and metaphors, bypassing the limitations of language and time. Their use of symbols was not just a means of communication. It was a way of encoding deeper truths about the nature of the universe and the cyclical forces that govern existence. These symbols, often embedded in the architecture they designed, the rituals they performed, and the artwork they created, served as keys to understanding the cosmic order and the flow of time.